When people hear the term evil YouTubers, they instantly think of those who've repeatedly been involved in controversies or had many unconfirmed allegations made against them. It seems that for every well-loved and respected YouTuber like PewDiePie or Markiplier, there's also those who thrive off of people's hatred for them, like the Paul brothers. However, there are some YouTubers out there who have committed some truly deplorable acts, such as sexual abuse, animal cruelty, and even murder. So in this video, we'll be discussing 11 of the worst YouTubers. Few YouTubers have garnered as much heat for their actions online as Jason Matthew Either, better known of course as JayStation. Even before his infamy on YouTube, he was apparently disliked by all of his colleagues at the Costco he worked at. He had more complaints made against him than any other employee at that particular branch's history. He was also known for being emotionally abusive to his girlfriend at the time, keyed a woman's car because her daughter didn't break up with her boyfriend for him, harassed everyone he came into contact with, and pushed away everyone in his life, including his own mother. He first gained attention on YouTube for his 3 AM videos, which, while they helped his channel grow very quickly, received massive backlash for how blatantly fake and tasteless they were, as he'd usually pretend to contact a recently deceased celebrity with a Ouija board. The most infamous video he made trying to capitalize on a famous person's recent death was his video about Etika, which he made mere hours after the latter's death. In the video, Jason does not do the Ouija board challenge at 3 AM as normal. Instead, he explains about almost dying, quote, 1 week ago at the time of creating the video.
Look, man, I almost died like a week ago, bro. For real, bruh. I'm up in my car right now. I'm ready to die, bro. I feel like I'm gonna get murdered, bruh.
He even goes as far as to say, if you don't feel how Etika did, you don't have depression.
YouTubers just putting, I'm depressed, guys. I'm depressed. I'm breaking down. I got depression. Or I do something bad. It's because I was depressed. He's hard on that shit because you know what? It's true, bro. These YouTubers are doing this, making 5 different videos about being depressed. Bro, I'm sad too, bro. But I'm not about to say I got depression, dude. Because you know what, man? If you didn't feel like Etika did, you don't got depression, my dude. You don't got depression. You're doing it for attention. So next time you're sad, suck it up, bruh. And just give your fans what they want to see.
Essentially mocking people who suffer from depression. JayStation also talks about how YouTubers claim they were friends with Etika, but he says that they were lying and doing it for attention.
If it's not money, it's for attention. Don't act like you're the guy's best friend, because you weren't, bro. Don't act like he was the most best person and you can vouch for him, because you can't, bro, because you don't know him.
JayStation changed the name of this video several times due to the backlash he received for it. A day after uploading the video, Jason changed the video's title to "None of you YouTubers donated yet, shame," and changed his own pinned comment in this video, claiming to have donated more to the charity choice of Etika's mother and that suicide is an issue he deeply cares about, while still keeping the comment, "1 dislike equals 2 prayers for Etika." He had also uploaded another video titled "I Needed to Say This," where he claims Etika had, quote, changed his life, that his death, quote, hit him so hard, and that he felt, quote, a connection with the whole story. The video amassed over 17,000 dislikes in 7 hours, with over 142,000 views. Ironically, in his previous video, he says he never even knew Etika.
I did not know Etika. I didn't even watch his videos, dude.
JayStation hit an all-time low in January 2020, when he uploaded 2 videos entitled "My Girlfriend Alexia Died, Rest in Peace" and "Saying Goodbye to My Girlfriend Alexia, Rest in Paradise." Unsurprisingly, many people were quick to call out JayStation for monetizing videos on his girlfriend's death, plugging his secondary channel, and even leaving links to his merch store. A few days later, JayStation uploaded a video trying to speak to her using a Ouija board.
What's poppin', guys? Back with another 3 AM challenge. As you guys know, my girlfriend Alexia just passed away in a tragic accident, guys. I cannot get over her, guys. I miss her so freaking much. A ton of you guys actually been commenting on my videos to talk to her on the Ouija board, guys.
Eventually, he took these videos down and uploaded a video in which he admitted that he'd made the whole story up and that Alexia was alive. Alexia uploaded a video to her channel in which she revealed some rather concerning details about her relationship with JayStation, such as him being abusive to her and her only doing videos with him because she was afraid of him. JayStation attempted to silence her by downloading this video, uploading it to his channel and then filing a copyright claim against her. In February of the same year, JayStation was arrested for faking Alexia's death and also for assault charges. He announced he would be quitting YouTube, but returned on a gaming channel called 666, which mostly focused on horror gaming and reactions. Eventually, it would seem YouTube had finally had enough of him and terminated both of his channels for violating the site's terms of service. He attempted to appeal this decision, but YouTube refused to reinstate his channels. Since then, he's mostly been active on Twitter and Instagram. Considering JayStation has proven time and again that he will do whatever he can to gain attention and money, regardless of the consequences, I think we can all agree that his termination is very well deserved, and hopefully we'll never see his face on this site again. When people think of hated YouTubers, Onision usually ranks at the top of most people's lists, as he's been despised by the community for many years now. Considering that he has been on this site for 15 years as of the making of this video, it's not surprised that he's been involved with almost every type of controversy there is. His first major controversy came in 2011 while he was dating Canadian singer-songwriter Shiloh Hoganson. In the summer of 2011, he uploaded a video called Shiloh Forgot Me, where he said she was suffering from memory loss of up to 3 years. Naturally, Onision received backlash for not seeking emergency medical help for Shiloh, instead of filming her while she was clearly distressed and frightened. The cause of her memory loss was due to a seizure, meaning Onision used his girlfriend's possibly life-threatening experience for views. In 2011, Onision faced rape allegations from Adrian Jurgensen. He handled these allegations very poorly, straight up calling Adrian a slut who slept with over 20 men and was therefore, quote, incapable of being raped. This led to thousands of people petitioning either his YouTube partnership being revoked or him being banned from the site entirely. He's also guilty of animal cruelty, as he is responsible for the death of his pet Russian tortoise, Reptar, after leaving him outside in a plastic container exposed to high temperatures. This created a greenhouse effect and robbed the container of oxygen, effectively suffocating the tortoise. Naturally, Onision did everything he could to avoid taking responsibility for his pet's death, going as far as to blame his viewers for it by saying that they were just as guilty as him because they ate meat, which obviously is completely irrelevant, and even blamed his neighbours, saying Reptar died because they were noisy. Beginning in 2019, Chris Hansen, a notable TV personality known for his To Catch a Predator series, created his YouTube channel and began a months-long investigation into Onision, documenting the abuse of his ex-girlfriends and his alleged grooming of underage girls. Since this began, Onision has threatened Chris Hansen both directly and indirectly, and calls Chris, quote, a stalker and a hater, due to Chris simply documenting Onision's controversial online activities. After interviewing several of Onision's victims, Chris took it upon himself to fly to Washington State in order to get Onision's side of the story on January 18, 2020. However, as Chris went to Onision's front porch and knocked on the door, Onision called the police on Chris and claimed that Chris was, quote, harassing him online and had started an online campaign of harassment against him and his family.
Okay, and do we know his name at all?
It's Chris Hansen.
This would be a great opportunity for you guys to tell your side of the story here, talk about the controversy, the allegations.
Chris is still producing content around Onision and is in contact with the FBI to potentially open a case against him. In January 2021, after well over a decade of being a YouTube partner, all 3 of his active channels were demonetized. This came after he was effectively shadow banned, with YouTube not promoting his content, as none of his recent videos were getting anywhere near as many views as he was getting in his prime. Following this, he announced that he would be leaving YouTube and Twitter. After so many years of him causing controversy after controversy, it was only a matter of time before YouTube finally caused him to leave on his own. Now, I know that a lot of you watching right now are probably thinking that JayStation and Onision may not be that evil. In all honesty, compared to the rest of the people you'll be seeing in this video, they are quite tame. Trust me, it only gets worse from here. Marcus Wilton is a Belgian YouTuber better known as LionMaker, who began his career in 2013. From the beginning, he focused on uploading Minecraft content. And with Minecraft being the hugely popular gaming juggernaut that it is, this caused his channel to rise in popularity very quickly. Over the course of only 2 years, his channel grew to over 500,000 subscribers. In 2015, however, his world would come crashing down when Keemstar uploaded a video called LionMaker Asks Minecraft Kid for Nudes, in which Keem interviewed the mother of a 13-year-old fan of LionMaker who'd been asked for nudes by LionMaker himself. Naturally, following this video, LionMaker attempted some damage control on Twitter, saying he wasn't the one who asked for those images and that he'd been hacked. However, in December 2015, another miner, 15-year-old Henry HD, leaked a Skype conversation that he'd had with LionMaker, in which the latter had asked him to, quote, have fun with him. In the same month, it was revealed that LionMaker had been in an online relationship with a 15-year-old girl named Paige the Panda, who regularly appeared in his videos. With all of this evidence against him, Keemstar uploaded a short video in which he told him to leave the Minecraft community. At this point, LionMaker pretty much lost his mind, admitted to the allegations against him, and posted a nude photo of Paige the Panda for everyone on Twitter to see. Whatever minuscule chance he had of redemption was crushed after an action like that. Somehow, his channel continued growing, and by the end of 2017, he'd reached 800,000 subscribers. However, in January 2018, his channel was terminated, and he more or less dropped off the map. In December of that year, Paige the Panda uploaded a video entitled My Experience with LionMaker, in which she discussed her relationship with him, revealing that she was with him from the age of 14 to the age of 17, and that he was abusive towards her.
Took him to court because for 3 years of my life we were in an online relationship, and in those 3 years it was basically just abuse, mental and sexual kind, so, you know, yeah, he went to jail before the whole court thing, and it kind of made us cut ties, although we had been in contact while I was in prison. We had sent like letters to each other, but eventually I saw the light.
Considering everyone had seen him post an explicit photo of her on Twitter, it's safe to say that she was not making any of this up. He attempted to make a comeback on a new channel that he made following the termination of his original account in 2018, but that account was also taken down on September 29, 2020. With his reputation in shambles, he's more or less completely vanished off the internet. Austin Jones is a former musician who was active on YouTube between 2007 and 2017. He began his career at the age of 15, uploading covers of well-known artists such as Panic at the Disco, My Chemical Romance, Fall Out Boy, and 21 Pilots. These videos helped him amass a subscriber count of over 500,000 and over 20 million video views. And in 2014, he released an EP entitled We'll Fall Together, which made it all the way to number 12 on the iTunes charts. With Austin being what many would call a teen heartthrob, it's unsurprising that the vast majority of his fanbase was made up of young teenage girls. In 2015, it was reported that Austin had been messaging some of these fans online, asking them to perform acts for him on video. As these rumors began to spread, an anonymous 15-year-old girl created a petition to have Austin removed from the 2015 Vans Warped Tour. The petition did not reach enough signatures, but Austin dropped out of the tour willingly and later uploaded a video to his channel entitled Setting the Record Straight, where he fully admitted that the allegations towards him were true and apologized for his actions. In 2017, Austin Jones was arrested on 2 counts of producing child porn. In 2019, Austin pleaded guilty to receiving the material, for which he was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison and is scheduled to be released on New Year's Eve 2027.
26-year-old YouTube sensation Austin Jones will head to prison. Prosecutors say from 2016 to 2017, he used his celebrity status to manipulate teenage girls who are fans of him, saying things like, "Prove you're my biggest fan." Prosecutors say he was obsessed with making the girls talk about their ages in these videos.
With his YouTube account terminated and all of his music removed from streaming services, it's safe to say that his career was well and truly destroyed by his actions. Austin let the fame go to his head, and it made him believe that he could use his fans' adoration for him to get them to perform acts to satisfy his sick desires. He's going to have plenty of time to think about this as he sits in prison where he belongs. Few if any of you will have heard of Nick Bate, as unlike everyone else who's appeared on this list so far, he did not have a huge following or fanbase, but after I've explained who he is, I think you'll agree with me when I say that he is the worst person in this video so far. Nick Bate, real name Nick Stautzenberger, was what can best be described as a lolcow. He was first discovered by the CWC board, which of course was a forum dedicated to Chris Chan, where people compared him to Chris due to his rather strange behaviour online. At first, people thought he was just a weirdo with some rather gross habits like never showering, never wiping after he'd used the bathroom, and never brushing his teeth. But they soon realised that they had something far worse on their hands when he openly admitted to being a paedophile and also stated that it should be legal for him to be that way. He also wrote songs about his fantasies regarding this detail about himself, which I will not be playing or naming because they are disgusting and I am legitimately concerned that YouTube will age restrict this video if I do so. His YouTube accounts are surprisingly tame considering what an obviously sick individual he is, with most of his videos just consisting of him rambling about nothing.
Hey nudists, it's everybody's favorite dude named Nick Bate. Nick Bate. Where am I, you may ask? Right here. Under the table. Just like all my sales deals. I have been playing Pokemon. That's pretty much it. Things I'm looking forward to. Pokemon Black and White versions. Also the new They Might Be Giants album. It's gonna be pretty cool. That's pretty much it. That's all I had planned.
However, there is one rather disturbing video on his main channel. In it, he plays a seemingly harmless and innocent game with this child, who is Nick's half-sister. However, Nick's sister would be the victim of a truly horrific crime committed by him. In 2015, Nick was arrested after it was reported to the police that he had molested her. He was sentenced to a maximum of 40 years in prison, with a minimum of 16.5. In a psychological evaluation performed on Nick before his arrest, he revealed that on top of his paedophilic urges, he also had homicidal thoughts towards his mother, stepfather, and aunt, which, considering how unstable he is, he most likely would have acted on had he not been apprehended. Obviously, as of this video, Nick is still incarcerated. He's appealed his sentence, but this was thankfully denied. Despite originally seeming like a harmless weirdo, Nick is clearly a dangerous man, and I honestly don't think he should ever be released. His half-sister is already going to have to deal with the memory of what happened to her for the rest of her life. She shouldn't have to worry about her brother one day getting out of prison, and instead, she should feel safe knowing that he'll be rotting in a jail cell for the rest of his life. Peluchin Entertainment is a 17-year-old Chilean former YouTuber who started uploading to the site in 2014 when he was only 10 years old. Initially, his content was diverse to say the least. Sometimes he'd upload videos of him sketching his stuffed animals, and other times he'd upload let's plays of horror games such as Five Nights at Freddy's, Slender, and SCP Containment Breach. More worryingly, however, he'd also upload some rather violent MS Paint animations, complete with blood, gore, and high-pitched screaming. At the end of 2018, he uploaded a video called Torso Slap, in which he recorded himself shoving an open can of cat food into the face of his cat, Jason Kruger. This would not be the last video he uploaded of him abusing his cat. The next one would be much, much worse. On December 18th, 2018, a video he'd uploaded and quickly deleted 2 weeks earlier resurfaced, showing him violently abusing the cat to the point where it later died of its injuries. After Jason Kruger's death, he bought 2 more kittens and also filmed himself abusing them as well, throwing one of them into his toilet. These videos attracted worldwide controversy on social media, with many people calling for his arrest. At one point, an angry mob apparently showed up at his house to get justice for the abused cats. Despite this, Peluchin shrugged off the hate he was getting, saying he didn't care about his cats and that he'd keep adopting them just so he could continue killing them. He also claimed he wanted to kill his mother. He'd also apparently tried to strangle his own cousin to death in the past. His videos sparked a trend amongst a particularly sick part of YouTube, where other people would also upload videos of them abusing their cats, all inspired by him. In September 2020, Critical uploaded a video discussing Peluchin's channel and how YouTube had failed to do anything to stop him, despite his history of animal abuse and the fact that he had inspired other channels to commit the same horrible acts.
And I knew about this, but I was under the impression that action was taken last I heard authorities were involved and his channel had been deleted. It wasn't until today where I found out that not only is his channel still fucking up where he is actively uploading videos, but he's also inspired a trend among Spanish-speaking YouTubers where they go out and beat and kill cats in his honor. For some fucking reason, this deranged loser has become some hero to animal abusers online.
On September 29th, 2020, Peluchin Entertainment's channel was terminated due to violating YouTube's terms of service. The same day, LionMaker's channel was also removed. His second account, Peluchin Entertainment 2, was also terminated on the same day. He attempted to make a comeback on a third channel called Satan, which he made in October 2020, but this channel was eventually taken down in early 2021. Forget not being allowed on YouTube. This kid needs to go to prison for what he's done. He's clearly a very sick, twisted individual who can't control his violent tendencies and is a danger to everyone around him. It's awful enough that he killed one of his cats. The fact that he's tried to murder his own cousin is much worse. Peluchin Entertainment is a psychopath, and if he isn't brought to justice soon, there's no telling just how far he'll go. Rather than cover one channel with this entry, I'll be discussing an entire community. These channels present themselves as animal lovers who go around rescuing dogs and cats from dangerous situations and always taking them back to whatever their base of operations is to clean them up and feed them. Naturally, a lot of people were seeing these folk who run the channels as kind-hearted heroes, saving animals simply because it's the right thing to do. In reality, however, these channels are lying to their viewers. In August 2020, Nick Crowley uploaded a video entitled YouTube's Fake Animal Rescue Channels, in which it was revealed that these channels were putting the animals into these dangerous and obviously very painful situations themselves so that they could make nonsensical yet ultimately still clickbait titles to get people to watch these disturbing videos and make them hundreds of thousands of dollars in ad revenue. Nick's video opened a lot of people's eyes to the gruesome practices that these channels were pulling in order to make money from abusing these defenseless animals. Nick actually made 3 videos on these channels. The first 2 focus on the channels run by these 2 men, of which there were at least 9. Nick was able to figure out that these men were working together, as the videos on their respective channels would often feature the same situations, be filmed at the same locations, and even sometimes featured the same animals. These men were also confirmed to have killed at least one puppy, which they pretended to find dead on the highway. Nick's third video on the animal rescue ring revealed that there are possibly hundreds of these channels, many of which are operating out of Vietnam, a country where animal cruelty runs rampant. With how many of these channels that there are out there, hundreds if not thousands of animals will have most likely have been killed. Many have been removed for violating YouTube's policy on violent content after being reported by users who wised up to what these people were doing. However, countless fake animal rescue channels are still on the site, still killing animals and still making money doing it. Many people have criticized YouTube for failing to remove the channels that are still up and actually punishing those who were trying to expose these people. Nick Crowley's last video on the fake animal rescue channels was age restricted before YouTube did anything about the channels he exposed. If YouTube continues to turn a blind eye to these channels, more and more animals are going to suffer and die, also that these sick individuals can make money. Okay everyone, we're coming to the final stretch of the list now, and I believe I've saved the most evil individuals for last. These people are by far the worst of the worst in YouTube's 16-year history. These people are killers. Anthony Powell was a YouTuber whose content revolved solely around spewing hate towards atheists and African American women.
These motherfuckers have been caught on their bullshit. If anything X is the truth, I'ma tell you just how, I'm gonna show you and tell you just how pathetic and ignorant and stupid these atheists are. My God, it's beautiful. They're angry. They have so much rage and hate in them. Look at this. This is so fucking pathetic, I swear to God.
He'd gone through numerous accounts due to them being banned for his controversial videos. He began to receive waves of traffic after expressing his support of Sean Caron, aka Venom Fang X, who was the #1 most subscribed creationist Christian on the platform at the time, and also very controversial for his views and history. By the end of his career, his videos became more detached, and commenters expressed concerns for his mental health, and that he was potentially a danger to himself after he had expressed suicidal thoughts. Powell was studying film at Mackenzie Fine Arts Center at the Henry Ford Community College in Dearborn, Michigan. Another YouTuber named Asia McGowan was also attending the college. Her YouTube channel consisted mostly of dance routines and comedy skits, but she was also an outspoken atheist and advocate for women's rights. As stated before, Powell was known for his hatred of atheism and African American women, so McGowan's views angered him, and he was reported to have harassed her at college several times. On April 13, 2009, Powell went to the college and headed straight for a classroom where McGowan was. This was the last time either of them was seen alive. An emergency call was made when sounds of an assault followed by a gunshot were heard. When the police arrived on the scene, they found both McGowan and Powell dead on the floor. Powell had shot McGowan before turning the gun on himself. In the wake of the shooting, the religious debate and skeptic community, including VenomFang X, came together to express their condolences to McGowan and Powell's families and discuss whether or not the event could have been prevented.
This video is concerning Tony48219. He was a user who has recently committed after murdering a young woman. This is a tragedy and nothing but a tragedy. This is horrific, and if the families of either parties is watching this in whatever event, I want to express both my sympathy for what has happened as well as a few words of comfort. God loves you, and God loved Tony, and God loved the young lady who was killed. The fact is, we are responsible for the choices that we make, and Tony made a very erroneous and a wrong choice.
And discussed whether or not the event could have been prevented due to Powell's extreme views and speculation over the severity of his mental health issues, as his parents revealed he had a history of depression.
This is the Anthony Powell hundreds, perhaps thousands of people got to know on the internet. He had his own YouTube channel where he often went on rants about women, religion, and evolution.
The fairy tales of evolution is entertaining, it is satire, and this comment is the funniest comment ever.
And this is the 28-year-old his parents knew, seen here in his high school graduation photo and full of ambition.
All of Powell's channels have since been removed, and his videos are almost entirely lost. Asia McGowan's channel is still up to this day, with her last video being uploaded less than a week before her death. Trey Sessler was a YouTuber who began his career in September 2006 on the channel LensCap Productions at the age of 17. At first, his channel was focused around comedy sketches that he'd make with his friends, the first of which being The Renters, which he uploaded the day his channel was created.
Where is my rent?
I don't know. Ask the hick.
It's over there. Over where? Over there. Ah, I see.
Eventually, he moved on to creating action videos, which were surprisingly violent, usually consisting of fight scenes involving swords and, I'm assuming, real guns that weren't loaded. As said, these videos were quite violent and contained a lot of fake gore, which Trey seemed to have a fascination with. At some point, Trey announced that he would be switching his content style, and the next day, he uploaded his very first anime review, which would be the debut of his nickname, Mr. Anime.
Alright, this being the first episode and review, I kind of wanted to start kind of strong and get this one out of the way. So that's right, I'm probably doing Inuyasha, the show that went on and on and on. But that's cool, right? Because we all love to watch shows that never stop. And not to mention, it had the shittiest ending I've ever seen out of any show, movie, play, Broadway musical, anything.
Despite never gaining a huge following, several reviewers who would go on to huge success in the field have cited him as an influence, most notably Giguk, who has since become one of the biggest anime-related channels on YouTube. In 2012, he uploaded a video entitled Mr. Anime is Planning Something. He never revealed exactly what he was planning, but he said he would be taking a 3-week break. Prior to this, there had been a couple of worrying videos on his channel. His review of High School of the Dead showed him holding a gun throughout the entire video, and another video showed a clearly intoxicated Trey testing a 9mm rifle.
You can call me the guy that does the video game reviews, you can call me the guy that does all the gun stuff now. Okay, so there's this old couch always under this bridge. Don't know who put it here. Just a really old couch. That's all it is. Basically, what I'm going to do is, and this is pretty childish and ridiculous, is blow up the couch.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Mr. Anime here. And well, I have some pretty good news. It's not Well, I have some kind of bad news, but it is good news. The good news is that I now found a full-time job in a department that I'm interested in, which is film. I'm still going to be doing the Google thing though, and I'm still going to be doing videos. So keep supporting Mr. Anime. I'll still be doing anime reviews, but probably not as many because this job will be full-time. But thanks to all of y'all, I've been able to be recognized by some people, and I'm going to be doing some good stuff.
A week after he had announced to his viewers that he had found a job in the film industry, it was reported that Trey had committed a truly horrifying and unforgivable act. In the morning of March 20th, 2012, Trey lured his mother out into the garage where he shot her in the chest at point-blank range. From here, he entered his home and shot his brother in the head. His father was woken up by the shots and entered the living room to investigate, only to be shot by Trey later. From here, Trey destroyed the house and killed his pets, before carrying weapons and 100 rounds of ammunition to Waller High School down the street. His original plan was to kill at least 70 students at the school's pep rally in order to become the biggest mass murderer in history. He killed his family first to spare them from knowing what he planned on doing next. However, Trey backed out when it finally dawned on him what he'd done. He then turned around and went to a friend's house, where he confessed to what he had done. His friend then contacted the police and Trey turned himself in. As well as finding the body of his family at Trey's home, they also discovered that he had written several messages on the walls, clearly showing regret for what he'd done. These messages were, "Why did I do this? I love my mom, dad and brother. I miss my brother, father and mother. God, please forgive me, because I can't forgive myself." While interrogating Trey, police confirmed Trey had been practicing for the event for several years and had been using buildings and household pets as target practice. He also had a large fascination for shootings, mainly the Columbine massacre, and would even rank killers. Trey somehow avoided the death penalty and was instead sentenced to life in prison. He requested that his right to appeal for parole be taken away, as he believed he was too much of a danger to himself and others to be set free. He currently resides in Jester 4 Unit Prison in Texas, after being transferred there from McConnell Prison in 2019. It's unknown where he'll be moved to next, but one thing that is known is that he'll remain behind bars until the day he dies. Randy Stair, or as he liked to be called, Andrew Blaze, was an American YouTuber who began his career in 2008 when he was 16 years old. His channel consisted of comedy sketches similar to those made by Make Me Bad 35. In fact, Randy even got him to collaborate with him in one video.
Randy.
Hey man, how's it going?
Look, I'm just calling because I made a huge mistake.
Oh, okay. So, you want me to send him back?
Yeah, I gotta patch things up with him. I just made a huge ass of myself.
Alright, well that's, no problem.
Can you put him on the phone?
What?
Can you put him on the phone?
Randy's videos weren't very good. The only thing he really had going for him was that he had a decent camera. The videos themselves had zero production value and mostly consisted of juvenile humor and characters that were just kids' toys. In his 8-year anniversary video, he admitted that most of the content created in his original channel was just ripping off other much bigger creators like Smosh and James Rolfe.
I did videos over the years that were just parodies of other YouTubers. In the beginning, I started videos that were similar to Smosh with sketch videos that transitioned to stuff similar to Fred. Then it went into Make Me Bad 35 territory, and it just kept building up into this parody area. You know what sucks stuff, which people grew to love, which it makes me wonder what would have happened had I done more of those. But in all honesty, it was just a ripoff of James Nintendo Nerds. It's bullshit. Not James Nintendo Nerd, the angry video game nerd, you know who I mean.
Eventually, Randy would change his content completely to a much darker and stranger style. He created Ember's Ghost Squad, a channel based around the character Ember McLean from the cartoon series Danny Phantom, created by Butch Hartman. Randy had a deep obsession with the character, saying that from the moment he first saw her, something resonated within him.
Like if you look on the poster behind me, those were inspired by Ember McLean, which is a ghost from a TV show called Danny Phantom. But this ghost, this woman always connected with me. Ever since I first saw her, something changed. And it wasn't like I grew up or anything like that. Like I realized, oh my gosh, I'm attracted to girls and all this. No, it just, something changed. It was like a spark. And it just connected with me. It made me feel warm inside. And it felt very familiar, which was strange. It was like I'd seen her before. And I just grew attached to her. unlike anything I ever have in my life. It was like my first crush, and it's a cartoon, you know? It's kind of crazy to think of it that way, but that's the truth.
Ember's Ghost Squad was a series made as a way for Randy to live out his fantasy of being able to live in Ember's world.
For the love of Ember, Froggy, you're a ghost! Ghosts don't eat!
The series was known for being very dark, violent, and in some cases, disturbing. It was clear that this series was greatly affecting Randy's mental health. He began believing that the characters he created were real, including the character he made as a persona for himself, Andrew Blaze. To that end, Randy had decided that he wanted to die and be reborn as Andrew Blaze so he could join Ember's Ghost Squad for real. It's worth noting that Randy was also a huge fan of Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold and frequented a Columbine fan forum. On June 8, 2017, all of the EGS Twitter accounts posted links to a Mediafire page containing a journal and over 10 hours worth of videos. These videos detailed his plans to commit a mass shooting at the supermarket he worked at. On the same day he posted the Mediafire links, Randy blocked off all of the exits to the supermarket and began firing at everyone in his way with a shotgun, killing 3 people before turning the gun on himself. Randy had always intended to take his own life, but his attack on the supermarket was actually decided via a coin toss.
Got a 1983 quarter right here. You believe in fate? Here's the fate test. I'm gonna flip this 3 times. Or the best out of 3, rather. If it's heads, I'll do it here. If it's tails, supermarket. Tails.
Ember's Ghost Squad wasn't his only motivation for what he did. His other reasons included the bullying he received in high school, his hatred for his parents, his bitterness over his lack of success on YouTube, and his general hatred for the world. It's honestly hard to feel sorry for him though, as he chose to take innocent lives as an act of revenge against the world that he felt had shunned him, rather than try to get help. If he had actually gotten help, 3 people would probably still be alive now, and wouldn't have had to die for Randy's sick, twisted fantasy to come true. This one is only going to be a very short entry. Alyssa Dayvault is a makeup YouTuber who became infamous for having murdered her 2 newborns in her home. These were actually back-to-back pregnancies between 2017 and 2018. In 2020, she was found guilty of these murder charges and was sentenced to 40 years in prison. There's unfortunately not a lot of information about Alyssa before this event took place, but I believe we can all agree that for killing her own newborn babies, she can definitely be considered the most despicable person on this list. How she managed to avoid life in prison is beyond me. She also has 2 daughters who are now middle school aged, and they are going to have to live with the fact that their mother is a cold-blooded killer who murdered their baby siblings for the rest of their lives. And that's the end of the video, folks. If you were expecting people like Keemstar, the Paul brothers, or Maximilian Must to be on this list, then I'm sorry I disappointed you. They may all be assholes, but none of them really qualify as evil enough for a video like this. You know the people on this list are bad when JayStation and Onision are the least evil channels on here. In regards to fake animal rescue channels, I've actually made 2 videos about them in the past, but I had to take them down because one of them, a guy who operated a channel called Pets Rescue, was sending privacy complaints against me and basically trying to get my channel taken down for exposing him. His channel was taken down a while back, but he's still making new ones, though these channels never really go anywhere. There's obviously other YouTube killers that I could have included, but I was afraid the video would be too long if I included any more. Plus, some stories like that of Reeflay, the Russian YouTuber who murdered his girlfriend in a livestream for $1,000, would most likely get this video age restricted. If there's any people you think should have been on this list, then by all means, let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, and if you're new, please consider subscribing. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye. Last year, I uploaded a video entitled 11 of the Worst YouTubers. Despite what the title might imply, neither that video nor this one covers YouTubers who make crappy or subpar content. If that were the case, What Culture Gaming would be near the top, since I honestly can't stand how obnoxious, woke and British they are. And I'm British too, so I can complain about them being too British. No, the YouTubers I'll be talking about in this video are actual criminals, who have committed acts that range from being caught with some compromising images on their hard drive to straight up murder. Here are 10 more of the worst YouTubers. Thaddeus McMichael, more well known by his YouTube handle, MadThad0890, was a user well known for being very open about his status as a weeaboo, regularly talking about it on social media. He was also infamous for his strange behavior regarding a character from the anime School Days named Kotonoha Katsura, who he viewed as his waifu, and even made a separate Facebook account for her, where he would post comments as Kotonoha expressing her love for him. It also got a little weirder than that, with him marking Kotonoha's birthday by making her a cake.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Kotonoha. Happy birthday to you. Blow out the candles, Kotonoha. Yay! I love you. And I hope you have a good birthday today. Now time for a delicious cake with my waifu. Yay! You jelly?
And on a more gross level, writing fanfiction in which he engages in sexual acts with her. This is certainly odd behavior, but at the very least, his hobby wasn't hurting anyone. Unfortunately, Thaddeus had a much more disturbing and highly illegal hobby that would eventually come to light. From what I've been able to find, the first indication of what kind of man Thaddeus was came in a post he made complaining about Chris Hansen and his TV series To Catch a Predator. In the post, he called Chris a cockblocker for tricking these men into believing that they were meeting with a minor, when in reality, they were there to be caught on camera. As you can see, he wasn't happy about Chris stopping these men from preying on minors. He made several other posts on his Facebook account, saying that CP isn't wrong because, quote, sometimes they want it, and various other disgusting statements. This caught the eye of one of his Facebook friends, and they reported Thaddeus to the police. It didn't take long for Thaddeus to be investigated by the FBI, at which point he claimed that the Facebook post that he'd been reported for were just jokes. The FBI did not believe him, and later found between 300 to 350 CP images and videos on his hard drive, leading to his arrest in March 2012. He was released after posting bail, with the condition that he must wear an ankle monitor and not use the internet until his bail was up. Only 3 days later, he posted this tweet: "I'm back, missing my waifu. Stupid feds didn't even find my backup hard drive." Needless to say, he was arrested again following this, and since he outright admitted that he had a backup hard drive, there was no chance of him avoiding jail time. He entered into a plea bargain where he would serve 5 to 25 years in prison. He was sent to prison on July 18, 2013, and was released exactly 5 years later on July 18, 2018. It would seem he was prohibited from uploading to his YouTube channel for quite some time after his release, as he didn't begin uploading again until 2021. The only people really watching his videos appeared to be trolls leaving comments calling him a legend, obviously a joke, but Thaddeus seems to think they're being honest. I suppose one could say Thaddeus isn't really a danger to anyone now, as his activity online is almost certainly always being monitored by the authorities. But there's no denying that as a convicted sex offender, he's certainly a questionable YouTuber, and here's hoping he's never allowed near children ever again. Amos Yee Ping Sang is a former actor, blogger, and YouTuber from Singapore. At the age of only 13 years old, he won Best Actor and Best Film Award for a film he made called Chan.
So why did you ask us to gather here? Yeah, I was busy playing Halo Reach. What's up? Boys, we got something bad going on. Please elaborate further. Jen, my best friend, she has cancer. Cancer? Seriously? Cancer? Yes, it seems like she has eaten too much McDonald's, and every time she puts like 5 packets of salt onto her fries, she always buys a double McSpicy with extra soy sauce. It seems that now she has stomach cancer, and a huge stomach ulcer is invading her small intestine.
The attention he received from the film led to him being cast by Jack Neo in his film We Not Naughty, in which Amos played a character named Amos. Despite only having a minor role in the film, Jack Neo praised Amos as a natural comedian and even allowed him to write his own dialogue for the movie. In January 2012, Amos attracted his first controversy when he uploaded a video to YouTube mocking Chinese New Year, calling it a rip-off of the Western New Year.
Hello! In my country, Singapore, we celebrate Chinese New Year on February, which I don't get. We already have a New Year, so why do we have Chinese New Year? It's like somebody from China said, hey, America has a New Year and we don't have one. Oh, let's quickly copy that idea and then make it a festive season for us.
He later defended himself, saying the video was just satire. In March 2015, Amos attracted more controversy when he uploaded a video criticizing the recently deceased Prime Minister of Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew.
Lee Kuan Yew, contrary to popular belief, was a horrible person and an awful leader to our country. He was a dictator, but managed to fool most of the world to think he was democratic, and he did so by still granting us the opportunity to vote to make it seem like we have freedom of choice. However, during your rule, you controlled the entire media and education, proliferating nationalistic propaganda on a daily basis. Now, seeing what Lee Kuan Yew has done, I'm sure many individuals who have done similar things comes to mind, but I'm going to compare him to someone that people haven't really mentioned before. Jesus. And the aptness of that analogy is heightened, seeing how Christian seems to be a really big fan of him. They are both power-hungry and malicious, but deceive others into thinking that they are compassionate and kind. Their impact and legacy will ultimately not last as more and more people find out that they're full of bull. And Lee Kuan Yew's followers are completely delusional and ignorant, and have absolutely no sound logic or knowledge about him that is grounded in reality, which Lee Kuan Yew very easily manipulates, similar to the Christian knowledge of the Bible and the work of a multitude of priests.
Amos was actually arrested for this and would be charged with the intention of wounding the religious feelings of Christians, obscenity, and threatening abusive or insulting communication, and would receive a 4-week jail sentence. He was jailed again a year later after he was arrested for making blog posts criticizing Islam. He served 6 weeks in prison for this. While there, he was visited by Melissa Chen, a US-based Singaporean activist who gave him documents that would allow him to leave Singapore and move to the United States. When he moved to the US, he was granted asylum after it was ruled that he would face persecution if he returned to Singapore. Amos said that being granted asylum in the US meant he would be able to criticize the Singaporean government without fear of consequences, and planned to upload many videos to his YouTube channel on the subject. Knowing the Singaporean government couldn't stop him. It wouldn't take long for Amos to attract controversy of a much different kind though. In November 2017, he uploaded 3 videos in which he expressed support for pedophilia. Unfortunately for Amos, his activity on YouTube did not go unnoticed by the American public. Harvard University cancelled a talk that Amos was supposed to give. He also found himself uninvited from other events he was due to speak at, and as such, was not getting paid. This resulted in him attempting to get his Facebook followers to donate to him, as he said he did not want to get a job. Over the next year, Amos Yee would continue to face controversy due to his quite frankly disturbing content, with his channel being completely demonetized in 2018, after the Toy Industry Association complained that their advertisements, obviously aimed at children, had been appearing on his videos. A month later, his YouTube channel was terminated for violating the site's terms of service. Patreon followed suit 2 months later and banned him from their site as well. In December of that same year, his Facebook, Twitter, and WordPress accounts were also shut down. By this point, it was clear that the internet was basically trying to get rid of him, since no social media site wanted someone like him operating on them. Despite all of this, after a 9-month hiatus in 2019, he stated in September of that year that he was planning on making a comeback, with even more pro-pedophilia videos already recorded. At this point, it seemed that Amos Yee almost relished in his newfound infamy, and could easily have been seen as a troll who just wanted to get a rise out of people with his outrageous views. However, in 2020, it would be revealed that Amos had been engaging in the very acts he had been showing support for. In October 2020, it was reported that he had been arrested on charges of soliciting CP from a 14-year-old girl. The thousands of messages between the two revealed that the girl had told Amos many times that she was underage. She had contacted a group that hunted pedophiles, which led to his arrest soon after. He originally pleaded not guilty to the charges, but later changed his plea to guilty in 2021, after accepting a plea deal that would see him sentenced to 6 years in prison, though he'll apparently be eligible for parole in 2023. There's a good chance that he'll be deported to Singapore upon his release. While many people there showed support for him during his time in jail when he was a teenager, it seems highly unlikely that his imprisonment will be protested if the Singaporean government decides to jail him once again. Due to his disgusting actions, it's fairly safe to say that nobody will be coming to Amos Yee's rescue this time, and that he's looking at a long time behind bars if the US government makes the decision to deport him. It turns out Austin Jones was not the first musical YouTuber to use his fame to take advantage of his young female fanbase. Mike Lombardo was an American musician and YouTuber who made his name on the site uploading piano-based rock songs that he'd written himself. He'd also occasionally post tutorials, personal updates, and even music videos. Having gained a name for himself in the fairly early days of YouTube, he caught the attention of DTBA Records, and through them, he released his first studio album, Songs for a New Day, in 2010. He would continue recording over the next year, including a live album he recorded at a coffee shop in Philadelphia. As you can probably guess, Mike was not as big of a star as Austin Jones, and he never toured extensively, rarely played to large crowds, and also didn't get invited to Warped Tour like Austin. His channel also wasn't what you'd call big at 20,000 subscribers. While that's certainly not a small number, he wasn't a big name on YouTube as a whole. Nevertheless, he still had a dedicated fanbase, mostly made up of teenage girls. And it's obviously here that we come to his downfall. In December 2011, the FBI raided Mike's home after they had received word from a University of Boston student that Mike, who at that point was 23 years old, had arranged a New Year's Eve meeting with a 15-year-old girl who was planning to travel from her Indiana home to meet him. When the FBI interviewed the girl in question, she told them that she and Mike had exchanged photos with each other, and upon searching her phone, they found numerous nude photos of him. Other teenage girls came forward with information on their interactions with Mike, with one of them saying he had performed an obscene act over webcam and tried to get her to do the same. FBI agents seized 4 computers, Mike's cell phone, a Motorola tablet, and a variety of hard drives and other storage devices from his home. He was held in police custody for 5 days before being released. In July 2012, the authorities would return, and Mike was arrested on 11 charges of soliciting CP. Mike's defense was saying that his victims happily obliged when he asked them for images, as if that made things better. He also claimed that the reason he did what he did is because he had no friends and so depended on online friendships. An online conversation between Mike and a 16-year-old girl from 2010 showed him telling her to delete the chat logs, saying, quote, "That's like 5 years in federal prison and sex offender registration," showing he was fully aware that he was breaking the law. Prosecution was pushing for him to spend a maximum of 20 years behind bars. This was reduced to 5 years after a plea bargain with the FBI that stated he had to hand over all of his computers as well as his phone. Mike began his sentence in 2014 and was released 4 years later in 2018. Since his release, Mike Lombardo has disappeared from the spotlight, having no online presence at all, presumably because his parole probably prohibits him from owning a computer. The majority of his fans will have most likely moved on and forgotten about him now. These days, Mike Lombardo is a relic of YouTube's past, and considering what he did, it's best that he stays there. David Rock was a Canadian YouTuber who operated under the name DavidsFarm. As the name of the channel suggests, he would film videos showing his daily life working on his London, Ontario farm. He would also post more outlandish stunt-style videos from time to time, which definitely helped him gain attention in the early days of YouTube, to the point where he was actually one of the most popular YouTubers in Canada at the time. This was especially impressive when you remember that he was much older than the big stars of the time, such as Shane Dawson, Smosh, and Fred. So a YouTuber who appeared to be in his late 40s, gaining a following on a site that was, and more or less still is, dominated by teens and people in their early 20s, was certainly unexpected. His channel grew fast and became highly profitable for him. At one point, he apparently was making anywhere from $11,000 to $16,000 a month from his videos. Of course, like all famous YouTubers, viewers became curious as to what David had been doing prior to his fame on the internet, and naturally began searching for information. Unfortunately, what they found in 2010 would be far more disturbing than what they had been expecting. In 1991, David was arrested for producing CP and also for having harmed at least one child. In total, David pleaded guilty to 7 charges and spent 1 year in prison. Upon the information of David's past being made public, many of his subscribers were naturally disgusted to learn that the man who they'd been watching and supporting was, in fact, a convicted sex offender. David attempted to defend his actions, saying that he was suffering from manic depression at the time of the crimes and that he had served his time and paid his debt to society. Several months later, YouTube would terminate his channel for violating community guidelines, though he made another channel only days later, and this channel quickly grew. Shockingly, this would not be the peak of David's infamy on the internet, as 2 years later, he would once again find himself in the news. In 2012, David was once again arrested for possessing CP, though he claimed that these were just nudist videos and that there was no sexual content in the videos at all. In a 16:9 documentary made earlier that year, David claimed he was not a predator and instead referred to himself as a, quote, voyeur, and added that he had enough money to pay his victims to shut up if he was really a predator.
Are you a sexual predator?
I absolutely say no. Don't call me a pedophile, don't call me all those things, call me a voyeur. That was what was wrong with me. I've been clean for 20 years. I wasn't doing this stuff all along. I hang out with women. I mean, this is why I have children. It's women I'm after, not children. I have lots of money. If I wanted to exploit children, I could certainly pay them and pay them to shut up or pay them to do whatever I wanted.
Not long after his arrest, his second channel was terminated for a copyright violation. I couldn't find any information on whether or not David went to prison in 2012, or for how long, but this would not be his final run-in with the law. In 2016, David was arrested after the authorities once again found inappropriate pictures of children on his property, this time being hidden under the rug in his barn. Having seemingly run out of excuses, David showed no remorse for his actions and pleaded guilty to the charges, which saw him sentenced to 9 months in prison. You'd think this would spell the end of David's time on the internet, but as of this video, he has once again returned to YouTube, although his views are nowhere near what they once were, implying that the vast majority of his old fans have either forgotten about him or don't want to support him. I personally am shocked that he's even on YouTube at all at this point. Many will say that he doesn't deserve his criticism because he's, quote, served his time. The problem with that is he's served his time at least twice for the same very serious offense, not to mention he's shown zero remorse for what he's done. I can't imagine he'll ever reach the same heights he did well over a decade ago, and that he'll eventually fade into obscurity and just be another memory on this website, which, honestly, is what he deserves at this point. Leighton the Fute is a YouTuber based out of Kelowna, Canada. He originally started out being much more active on Instagram, where he gained some attention for his bizarre images of clay sculptures that he had created. These images were almost all obscene in nature, and it seemed that he was an artist who specialized on creating works with the intention to shock those who view them. Some shock artists do go too far, such as when YouTuber Mark McGowan conducted a piece of performance art in 2007 that he called Eating the Queen's Dog, in which he publicly consumed the meat of a corgi dog as a form of protest of a fox hunt led by Prince Philip. While Leighton's art was not that extreme, it did cause many people to wonder if there was something wrong with him. His YouTube channel was much tamer to begin with, as he would mostly just upload inoffensive claymation videos. While they weren't necessarily disturbing, they were quite violent, usually containing gratuitous amounts of clay gore. The blood obviously wasn't real, and these characters featured in these videos were literally just clay, so there probably wasn't anything that sets off alarm bells for anyone watching. There's plenty of artists and animators who use blood and gore in their videos for dramatic effect, so Leighton's videos were nothing that most people hadn't seen before. The claymation videos did become much more violent and obscene as the years went on though, with Leighton making the kind of videos you'd see on gore sites, but again, this was with clay, so no one was actually getting hurt. Taking all of this into account, it was easy for most people to just dismiss Leighton as an edgelord who only made videos like this in hopes it would get a reaction out of people. He was also known to have a DeviantArt account, where he'd post more of the same edgy images, including one of a character he made called Itchy the Maniac, a character inspired by John Wayne Gacy's Pogo the Clown persona. Again, it's easy to just write this off as Leighton being the edgy teenager who probably walked around high school wearing a trench coat, saying how great Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold were. He took a break from producing any content for 2 years in 2017, and returned in 2019, announcing that he planned to upload a video of himself dancing while wearing clay breasts. By the way, he actually did upload this video, and I'm not showing it because I have a bad feeling it will get this video demonetized, and plus nobody wants to see this guy with his shirt off. From this point, he just continued posting more of his odd artwork, albeit now of a more sexual than violent nature. It really did seem like he was going out of his way to make everyone see him as a weirdo, and it was getting harder to tell whether or not he was playing a character, or if this was really who he was. In 2019, we would come to learn that he was, indeed, a truly sick individual. He began uploading clay model images of himself abusing animals. He hadn't gone this far before, so it was at this point that people finally began to become concerned about his behavior, and it was this tweet that foreshadowed just how bad he would become. He purchased 3 pet hamsters and posted a video of himself playing with them on his bed. The video itself isn't disturbing, but the description absolutely is. It read, "Pin stabbed, drowned, microwaved." The next day, he uploaded a video in which he brutally tortured and killed 3 hamsters. The video was of course removed from YouTube for violating community guidelines. I have no idea if this video is still on the internet somewhere, and I have absolutely no intention of trying to find it. Needless to say, those who saw the video were horrified and outraged, and called for him to be reported to his local authorities, but due to his channel being so small, there wasn't enough of an uproar to really catch the attention of the police. Leighton was actually disappointed by this, as he clearly wanted people to be outraged by his actions and to be an infamous figure on the internet. This led to him re-uploading the video onto Reddit multiple times a year later in 2020. A week later, he was finally arrested and charged with 3 counts of animal cruelty. He was bailed only 3 days later, which many people were outraged by, and led to them protesting outside the courthouse, clearly believing he should be jailed.
I really kind of hope that, and the lawyers, the judges that are walking in can see that, this is something that matters. This is horrific acts that he allegedly caused. But, with the video proof and with his the gruesome Instagram and media accounts that depict hundreds of images of claymation of rape, torture, murder, he has kill kits online, him with claymation with him and a cat and a knife, it's one of those things that this is how you... People that start with animals don't usually stop there. Obviously, I can't say that would happen for sure, but he obviously needs some psychiatric help. And, the justice system needs to step up because, the lives of animals matter too, and keeping our community safe should be our priority.
His trial eventually went ahead in August 2021, where he was given an 18-month conditional sentence, which stated that he was banned from entering pet shops, was prohibited from using any form of social media, and must attend therapy. As of this video, his sentence is still in effect, meaning he hasn't been active on the internet at all in nearly a year, and YouTube has terminated his channel for violating the community guidelines. This is actually why I wasn't able to use much footage of his videos. That's probably for the best though, since I honestly think this sick bastard deserves to be forgotten, since quite literally everything he ever did online was to get attention through any means necessary. He didn't care what he had to do as long as people noticed him. Well, it worked for a while when this sad, pathetic little man killed 3 defenseless hamsters, but I'm sure he realizes he can't pull anything like that again, since the authorities are now aware of him and will arrest him in a heartbeat if he harms any more animals on camera. I doubt he wants to go to jail because, well, just look at him. They'd eat him alive. Leighton, if you're watching this, do everyone a favor and stay off the internet forever, and get rid of that goofy-ass haircut, you cringy edgelord loser. Joshua Huffman is a YouTuber and furry who began uploading in 2012. He apparently got into the furry fandom after being introduced to it by his friend, Levi Dane Simmons, aka Snake Thing, who as it turns out is actually an absolutely awful human being as well. He isn't a YouTuber, hence why he doesn't have his own entry on here, but he's probably the worst person I've mentioned so far, as he's actually serving 25 years in prison right now for doing some disgusting acts with both animals and children. The fact that Joshua would associate with someone like him should serve as a bit of foreshadowing to what he himself is actually like. For the first few years on his time on YouTube as Kero The Wolf, Joshua was only really well known in the furry community until 2017, when Shane Dawson was approached by his friend Ashley Fox to make a video in the furry community, and the furry who would be showcased in this video was Kero The Wolf.
Okay, here is my plan. I want to talk to Kero because I have a lot of questions, but also I'm just genuinely interested in this whole world, and I know a lot of you guys are probably judging this. I mean, it is weird, but I feel like maybe once we know more about it, then maybe we'll understand it more.
Shane even interviewed Joshua in the video, and one of the questions he asked was whether there was a sexual side of being a furry. Joshua confirmed that there is, but denied that he himself found any sexual gratification from being a furry.
You know, there's a big myth or stereotype, I guess, of furries, which is that it's a solely sexual thing. And a lot of you guys say it's not, right?
It's not. Honestly, the age variation in furries, it can go anywhere from a person to be 12 years old to like 60 years old. There's a huge range of ages in here. So most of the furry fandom is not a fetish. There is a sexual side to it, but it's not that large.
Right.
Most of us do it for like a hobby or a lifestyle.
Needless to say, Joshua appearing on Shane's channel led to a huge amount of exposure for him, with his channel going from 10,000 subscribers to 90,000 within a month and over 100,000 by the start of 2018. People praised Joshua for shining a positive light on the furry community with his kind words and upbeat personality. Unfortunately, it would later be revealed that Joshua was a fraud and certainly not the good person he made himself out to be. In September 2018, chat logs began making the rounds on Twitter, exposing a zoodonist, necrophiliac and also pedophilic group of furries who were operating on the encrypted messenger app Telegram. One of the furries exposed in these chat logs was none other than Kero The Wolf. Many of these screenshots show him chatting with Snake Thing, talking about engaging in obscene acts with dead animals. Joshua seemed to enjoy talking about engaging in disgusting acts with roadkill, talking about cub porn, and most disturbing of all, sharing videos of animal snuff films. Naturally, Joshua denied that it was really him in these screenshots, and claimed he was hacked, and showed a screenshot that apparently showed that his Telegram had been accessed by someone in Iran. However, people quickly figured out that he was lying, as the Kero The Wolf account seen in the Telegram chat logs displayed far too many similarities to the Kero being accused for it to be a coincidence. They displayed the same fetishes, lived in the same state, and bragged about how Shane Dawson's video had helped his channel grow. Perhaps the most damning piece of evidence shows him talking about a video he'd just made at the time but hadn't uploaded yet, and shared a picture of the thumbnail. This would have to be a very good hacker for them to be able to have access to Joshua's PC so that they could take a picture of the screen. There's also the stuff about his dog who passed away in 2017, where he talks about it being in poor health at the time and how he felt guilt over what he had done to the dog. Snake Thing, being the paragon of virtue that he is, reassured him that the dog forgave him and probably enjoyed everything he and Joshua did together. Seriously, fuck this guy. Around this time, Shane Dawson privated the video he had done with Joshua, and it was more or less universally accepted that Joshua was guilty of the actions he was accused of. Things got even worse for Joshua when an account was discovered on beastforum.com that shares his birthday, was based out of Pennsylvania, and also posted pictures of the same dog that Kero was talking about in the Telegram leaks, where he was discussing what he wanted to do to it. One of the pictures of the dog was also posted to Joshua's Fur Affinity account. He deleted the photos from this account, but by this point, he had already been caught out. With this, Joshua had no way of denying the allegations against him anymore. His associates that were actually exposed with him in these leaks were actually even worse than him. There's the aforementioned Snake Thing, who of course is in prison where he belongs now. But there was also Woof, a Cuban zoophile who pleaded with Kiwi Farms not to dox him after they found out who he was. But once the farms discovers who a criminal is, they will dox them, which is exactly what they did to Woof, leading to thousands of people in Cuba calling for his imprisonment, though as far as we know, he's still free today. But considering how many people know exactly who he is and where he lives, they're most likely keeping a close eye on him. By far the worst person exposed in these leaks was Tim Wynn, a 61-year-old man who has been making animal snuff films for over 30 years. taking an immense amount of joy in what he does. These are the people Joshua enjoyed hanging out with. These were his friends. I wish I could finish this segment and say that Joshua was reported to the police and was sent to prison where he still remains to this day. Unfortunately, that's not the case. While all the evidence was sent to the authorities, including a video from 2014 where Joshua filmed himself abusing his dog, the statute of limitations of bestiality in the state of New York, where he is currently living, is 2 years, and by the time the evidence was given to the authorities, it had already been 4 years since Joshua committed the acts he was exposed for. As of today, Joshua has returned to YouTube and is semi-active, though his channel doesn't get anywhere near the views he was once getting in his prime. And he seems to remove all comments criticizing him, since all of the comments on his videos are positive, including this lengthy comment made by a channel called Protector of Furries, Shiro, who is most likely just Joshua on an alt account. It really is infuriating that Joshua and almost all of his accomplices have seemingly escaped any consequences for their disgusting actions, with Snape Thing being the only exception. For all we know, Joshua, Woof, and Tim Wynn are still out there abusing animals for their own sick pleasures. I just can't wrap my head around how zoophiles can take a look at something like a puppy and want to do such horrible things to it. Dogs are called man's best friend for a reason. They're loyal animals who just want to make their owners happy and to be looked after in return. Dogs should be seen as friends and even members of the family, not objects to be used for some sick freak's depraved fantasies. The bottom line is, zoophiles should absolutely not be allowed on YouTube promoting their disgusting interests. If they've acted on their urges, they should be in prison, and if they haven't acted on them, they need some serious mental help. In Kero The Wolf's case, he should absolutely be in prison right now. Some insane people still support him, but everyone else now knows him for what he is, a cruel and depraved monster. I'm sure Chris Chan doesn't need much of an introduction, since they are probably the most infamous figure on the internet. Christian Weston Chandler is a 40-year-old former YouTuber and artist. He first gained the internet's attention in 2007 when this picture of him was posted to 4chan, showing him in one of his many colourful shirts, his thick glasses, and of course, his Sonichu medallion. He'd actually been active on the internet since at least the year 2000, when he began posting his own webcomic, the aforementioned Sonichu. As the name suggests, Sonichu is a strange mix of Sonic the Hedgehog and the Pokemon Pikachu, which he had originally created for a high school project. The comic was drawn entirely in crayon and prominently featured Chris himself as the main character, with him being a tall, buff ladies' man, essentially everything Chris wanted to be in real life. His presence in the media in general actually goes back even further than that, with him first being featured on television in 1994, when he was 12 years old, in a news story covering him winning a contest in which he won $1,000 worth of Sonic merchandise.
12-year-old Christian Chandler of Charlottesville was the winner in a video game shopping spree. Christian is one of only about 100 winners nationally to receive $1,000 worth of Sega games and equipment. For his parents, it's just another example of how well he's doing. Christian is a high-functioning autistic child. This past fall, on his own initiative, he entered a contest based on a favorite cartoon character.
What I had to do was exactly watch Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon, and I'd listen to what Sonic says at the end of it, and write it down for a whole week, and then I had to mail it in, and I had to be drawn out of a hat, and I just won.
He would appear on TV again in 1999 at the age of 17, in a news story covering the Pokemon craze that was sweeping the world at the time.
I'll put out my Dragonair, even though it has 60 damage on it. Oh boy. And now it has 3 energy on it. Slam attack.
In February 2007, he uploaded his first video to YouTube on his 25th birthday.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, and dudes of all teenagers, as well as the gals. My name is Christian Chandler. I am here, and y'all are there. This message is for everyone of the present and the future beyond this date, February 24th, 2007, my birthday, my 25th birthday. I am high-functioning autistic, and in my 25 years, I have seen and learned so much. You should keep in mind of what your true original gender is, because it's like you're learning about that girl you want to take on a date, young man. Or likewise, you feel more comfortable to approach that boy Just saying hello that you've been checking out from a distance, young lady. And hopefully in due time or now, each and every one of you will stay straight. You know, girl for boy, boy for girl. Everything else is vice, as said by Dr. Kinsey. Not just for me, not for the big man upstairs, not for your family, but do it for yourself and for the benefits of everyone in the future. Your children, your children's children. And besides, if you stray away from the straight path, it can really jeopardize the entire future of the world and the human race.
From this point, Chris would begin revealing all sorts of details about his life and his past, most infamously his time in college, where he attempted to gain a girlfriend by putting posters around the campus that stated he was looking for a girl who was at least 18 years old, thin, and white, as Chris was quite open about the fact that he would not consider dating a black woman. Chris has apparently always been somewhat racist towards African Americans, but that's not important. Chris's willingness to share so many details about his life, as well as him being incredibly gullible, quick to anger, and just his general weirdness, made him, without question, the most trolled person in history. Since his discovery in 2007 to the present day, trolls have been finding new ways to harass Chris. While some were ultimately harmless, others went too far, such as Clyde Cash and Blue Spike, who convinced Chris that he was in a relationship with a woman named Julie, who was actually the 13-year-old Blue Spike, which of course led to the infamous sex tape that Chris made called For Julie's Eyes Only, which was sent to Chris's parents by the trolls. Even Clyde and Blue Spike's fellow trolls called them out for what they did next, however, when Blue Spike revealed to Chris that he was in fact Julie, and that he had been interacting with a 13-year-old boy. He then forced Chris to use his sonitude medallion as a suppository while he taunted him. This event will have left a lasting impact on Chris. As the years went by, and new trolls continued to harass him, he began thinking almost everyone he met was a troll, which only made him shut himself away from the outside world even more than he already did. This took a huge toll on his mental health, that only got worse as time went on, as the various videos he uploaded to his channel showed, as he seemed to become increasingly unhinged. One thing I can't avoid talking about when it comes to Chris is their transition. In 2012, Chris began identifying as a woman and changed their name to Christine, and for the rest of this I'll be referring to them as they, since up until now everything I've talked about happened when Chris was male. But Chris's transition is not a genuine one. Chris has outright stated that the only reason they wanted to become a woman is so that they might have a chance of dating lesbians, since they've seemingly given up on trying to attract straight women. Not to mention that in order to speed up their transition, they attempted to mutilate their own genitals and shared an image of the result online, and I absolutely do not recommend looking this image up. Chris still identifies as a woman to this day, but needless to say, they don't receive much support from the trans community, not just because most of them know that Chris is attempting to transition for all the wrong reasons, but also for what they did in 2021, which we'll get to. Before we get into why Chris is such a terrible person, I should note that they have a long history of run-ins with the law. From as early as 2005, Chris has repeatedly found himself in court for various reasons. The most extreme came in 2011, when Chris and his mother Barbara were charged with a hit and run after Chris reversed into Michael Schneider, the manager of the game place. Chris managed to avoid jail time, as Michael Schneider said he didn't want Chris to have a felony on their record, and instead insisted that they pay the bills for his medical treatment. The second time Chris found themselves in serious trouble was after an altercation that took place at a GameStop in December 2014, when Chris, angered by the redesign of Sonic the Hedgehog in which his arms were changed to blue, was going around trying to recolor his arms on the cover of the newest game at the time, Sonic Boom. Chris was asked to leave as a result, leading them to use pepper spray on one of the employees trying to escort them out.
Don't call anybody.
Chris was arrested for this and briefly spent time in jail as a result. After a series of court hearings over the preceding 10 months, Chris was eventually ordered to pay a $500 fine after being found guilty of assault. This, of course, would not be Chris's final run-in with the law, but in 2021, they committed a crime that no one could have foreseen, as nobody will have thought that Chris was capable of doing something so horrifying and disgusting. For their entire life, Chris lived with their parents, Bob and Barbara Chandler, until the former's death in 2011. Following this, Chris would use their mother to beg for donations in their videos, as they obviously felt that people would be more willing to help an elderly woman.
We are in need of donations for food. Please consider us. Thank you.
Many people have noted that over the years, Barbara had begun to show signs of dementia, as she often seemed lost and confused in Chris's videos, clearly not being all there mentally. Chris would take advantage of this in the worst way possible. In August 2021, Chris was arrested after it had been reported that they had committed an obscene act with their own mother, with the affair between the two having begun in June of that year. It would seem Chris had been planning this for several months, as they had told Kiwi Farms owner Null that they had purchased several items from Adam and Eve to perform the acts. Chris had shown signs that they were in favour of inter-family relations as far back as 2016, when they commented on a case that involved another mother and son, saying that they shouldn't be sent to jail for what they had done. Chris has shown no remorse for what they have done. If their mother consented to the act, Chris faces up to 10 years in prison. If she did not, they face a considerably longer sentence. This action from Chris marked the end of them just being a lolcow, and instead established them as a truly sick and twisted individual who took advantage of their elderly, dementia-ridden mother. At this point, it's fair to say that Chris is truly beyond redemption. Stanislav Reshetnik, better known by his online handle Stas Reeflay, was a Russian streamer who operated on Twitch and YouTube, where he would record himself gaming and playing in online casinos. He was also what is known as a trash streamer, someone who would perform various acts depending on how much someone paid him. He lived with his girlfriend Valentina Grigorieva, who would often appear in his streams with him. The two did not have a good relationship, as Reeflay would often abuse her on camera when paid to do so by his viewers. The abuse regularly involved physical violence. This wasn't helped by the fact that he would frequently get drunk on his streams, making him more likely to agree to such violent requests from his viewers. For whatever reason, Valentina continued living with him, despite the fact that Reeflay was clearly a very dangerous and unstable man, as she was not his only victim, with several of his friends also enduring his abuse live on stream. Reeflay would continue abusing his girlfriend and the rest of his other friends until December 22nd, 2020, when he finally went too far and performed a truly unforgivable act. During a live stream, a viewer paid Reeflay $1,000 to hit Valentina. He did so several times before forcing her onto the balcony outside their apartment. Keep in mind, this was in the extreme cold of a Russian winter, and Valentina was dressed only in her underwear. He claimed he locked her outside because she had, quote, an intestinal problem and would have made the apartment stink had she stayed indoors. She frantically banged on the door to be let back in, to which he ignored her. After 15 minutes, the banging outside had stopped, and Reeflay went outside. He came back into the view of the camera carrying Valentina, who had stopped breathing and had no heartbeat. After saying that she, quote, looked like she was dead, and attempting to revive her, the paramedics were called. When they arrived, Valentina was pronounced dead at the scene, all while the live stream was still going. The cause of her death was originally ruled as hypothermia, but after an autopsy revealed that Valentina had suffered several blunt force blows to the head, her death was determined to have been caused by cranial cerebral trauma, and as Reeflay had beaten Valentina on camera, the authorities immediately knew that he was the one who killed her, and he was arrested and charged with her murder, facing up to 15 years in prison. While awaiting trial, Reeflay changed his tone on what he had done several times, at first showing remorse and saying that he didn't mean it, and then saying that she was on drugs and would have died anyway regardless of whether he killed her or not. In April of 2021, Reeflay was sentenced to 6 years in prison for intentional infliction of grievous bodily harm resulting in death. While the person who paid Reeflay to beat Valentina could be considered the real monster in all of this, as well as the rest of his fans for enabling his violent behavior in the first place, the fact that he freely agreed to kill his girlfriend out of his own greed shows that he's truly a despicable human being, and, as a murderer, definitely belongs in a video like this. Jared Lee Loughner's time on YouTube was fairly short, but nonetheless significant as he used the site to upload videos that would foreshadow what kind of person he was. A native of Tucson, Arizona, Jared dropped out of high school in his senior year in 2006, at which point those who knew him noticed a change in his behavior, whereby he became incredibly distant and spent a lot of time on his own. He also began taking illegal substances, which obviously made his behavior much more volatile and unpredictable, to the point that his parents disabled his car to stop him from driving, in fears that he'd hurt himself or other people. He did actually attend college during this time, studying at Pima Community College, but he would frequently find himself in trouble with the campus police, having to deal with numerous complaints concerning his behavior in classrooms and the library. It was during his time at college that he would film his first YouTube video in September 2010, which was shot from his perspective as he wandered around the campus criticizing it, saying that the college itself was illegal according to the United States Constitution, and called it the biggest scam in America.
Alright, so here's what we're doing. We're examining the torture of students. We are looking at students who have been tortured. They're at low income pay in 2 wars. The war that we are in right now is currently illegal under the Constitution. What makes it illegal is the currency. The date is also wrong. It's impossible for it to be that date. It's mind control. How's it going? Thanks for the bee. I'm pissed off. What's that? I lost my freedom of speech to that guy. And this is what happens. And I'm in a terrible place. It's the school that I go to. This is my genocide school. Where I'm gonna be homeless because of the school. This is Pima Community College, one of the biggest scams in America. Here's the best part, the bookstore. The bookstore, the bookstore, the bookstore. It is so illegal to sell this book under the Constitution. We are also censored by our freedom of speech. If the student is unable to locate the external universe, then the student is unable to locate the internal universe. Where is all my subjects? I could say something sound right now, but I don't feel like it. All the teachers that you have are being paid illegally and have a legal authority over the Constitution of the United States under the First Amendment. This is genocide in America. Thank you. This is Jared from Pima College.
The college saw the video and had it taken down, and suspended Jared. They told him he could return if he agreed to a psychological evaluation. He refused and instead dropped out. Those who knew him at college were glad to see him go, as they were afraid he was going to commit a school shooting if he stayed there. After leaving college, he began uploading more to his YouTube channels, Class It Up 10 and Starhitchnaz. His videos on Class It Up 10 were all text-based, rambling about the government and also criticizing the college. Only one video exists on Starhitchnaz, and it shows Jared in the woods, wearing a garbage bag around his waist and a pig mask on his head, burning the American flag. This was apparently his way of showing his hatred for the American government. On December 15th, 2010, he uploaded his last video to Class It Up 10 entitled Hello, in which he hints that he is planning something that will happen a few days later, and in January 2011, we would find out what he was planning. On January 8th, 2011, at 7:04 a.m., Jared went to a Walmart store near the Foothills Mall to purchase ammunition. He was stopped by the Arizona police at 7:34 a.m. for running a red light, but once the officer determined that there was no outstanding warrants for Jared, he was allowed to proceed to his destination with a warning to drive carefully. Jared took a taxi to a Safeway supermarket location in Casas Adobes, where Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords was holding a constituents meeting. Jared opened fire on Giffords from close range, hitting her as well as numerous bystanders and killing 6 people, the youngest of which was only 9 years old. 13 other people were injured by the gunfire, and 1 person was injured while fleeing the scene of the shooting. Giffords, the target of the attack, was shot in the head and critically injured, but survived and eventually recovered. Jared was arrested at the scene for the attempted murder of a member of Congress and the murder of 6 people. Jared was given 7 life sentences in prison, as well as 140 years without the possibility of parole. Jared showed no remorse for his crimes, and the mugshot taken after his arrest showed just how happy and proud of himself he was for what he had done. The image of Jared smiling as he stares right into the camera is probably the most chilling picture of any YouTuber in history, as Jared makes no effort to hide just how sick, deranged, and truly evil he is. He will never walk free again, but his actions will forever leave a dark stain on Tucson, Arizona, and the videos showing his descent into madness are still on YouTube to this day. In YouTube's 17-year history, there have been quite a few well-known cases of YouTubers becoming killers. Pekka Erik Auvinen was probably the very first. Pekka Erik Auvinen was a YouTuber based out of Toulouse, Finland, just north of Helsinki. While he had a normal childhood and never displayed any behavior that would be cause for alarm, this all changed when he was attending high school. Reports stated that Pekka began displaying the views of a radical militant and was threatening other students, saying they would die in a white revolution, and was also known to be a Nazi enthusiast. His parents attempted to get some help for him from a psychiatrist, but the psychiatrist simply gave Pekka some medication as there was apparently a long waiting list and he wasn't a priority for them. Pekka rarely took the medication given to him for his depression and anxiety, which only made his conditions worse. Unsurprisingly, this caused him to isolate himself from the outside world more and more, and he would spend more of his time on the internet watching violent videos, which he would re-upload to his own YouTube account, as this was back in the days when YouTube didn't really have any real restrictions on what you could upload. His YouTube channel was called Natural Selector 89.
Hello everyone, this is me, Natural Selector 89, talking to you, friends and haters and everyone else. I got this idea of making an introduction video to my channel. I guess I have not much to say right now, but I will make more talking videos in the future, and until then I will continue making my usual videos, which I hope you have enjoyed as well. This is all for now, but I'll see you later and out.
And besides uploading the aforementioned violent videos, he would also praise the actions of the perpetrators of said violent videos, such as the Columbine shooters and Aum Shinrikyo's sarin gas attack in Tokyo. Alongside those, he also made videos criticizing religions and trying to disprove their existence. In some of these videos, he said that he was a god and should be worshipped. Natural Selector 89 was suspended on October 19th, 2007, so he created another channel on the same day called Stormgeist 89. This channel would be very similar to his old channel, as he would talk about massacres and religion. However, he would also create videos showcasing his guns after getting a gun license in October. His channel description also showed how deranged he had become by then. I am prepared to fight and die for my cause. I, as a natural selector, will eliminate all who I see unfit, disgraces of the human race, and failures of natural selection. This was not Pekka trying to be edgy. These truly were his intentions. He purchased over 500 rounds of ammunition and intended to put them to use on November 7th, 2007. That day, Pekka uploaded one final video to his channel. It showed a picture of his school before fading to a red image of him pointing a gun at the camera. At around 11:40 AM that day, Pekka arrived at Jokela High School, drew his pistol, and began firing. Seeing himself as the physical embodiment of natural selection, he would fire on those who he deemed unworthy to live. In the space of only 4 minutes, he killed 4 of his fellow students, as well as a school nurse. Those who crossed his path but were spared were obviously those who he considered to be worthy. Pekka actually called for his fellow students to join him in what he called his revolution. He didn't kill those who refused, instead firing into their classrooms and destroying the televisions inside. After making his way to the school's 2nd floor, he shot 1 more student, as well as the school's principal. Eventually, the police arrived. Pekka fired several shots at them before fleeing to a bathroom and turning his gun on himself. The attack lasted just half an hour and left 8 people dead. Before the attack had happened, the Amazing Atheist had warned that something like this would happen after he had previously spotlighted Pekka's YouTube channel in one of his videos.
Now, I warned you guys that these social Darwinist kids who idolized Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold were dangerous, and I got the videos right fucking there to prove it. I warned you. I went specifically head-to-head with this very kid who committed this act. I made videos directed exactly at him. And we shouldn't turn him into a monster, and we shouldn't turn him into a hero. We need to think of him as exactly what he was, a pathetic fucking teenager who didn't know that what he was doing was wrong, who had no fucking idea about right or wrong at the time, who was just too fucked up to understand the consequences of his actions in any real way.
Unfortunately, it seems that even if people had heeded the Amazing Atheist's warnings, Pekka would most likely have not been stopped, as the majority of his audience has always been in the US, and those viewers would not have been able to report Pekka to the Finnish authorities. As I said at the beginning of this segment, Pekka was most likely the very first YouTube killer. He may not be as well known as someone like Mr. Anime or Elliot Rogers, but on that day in November 2007, he showed just how cruel and evil a YouTuber can be. And that's the end of the video, folks. This one was really hard to make because the UK got hit by 2 heat waves in the last month, which made editing very difficult since I'm using a Razer Blade 15 laptop, and those things give off insane amounts of heat sometimes, so working on the video during the day just wasn't an option since it turned my bedroom into a sauna. But I finally managed to get it done, and I hope that you, at the very least, found it interesting. I'm just gonna let you know now that the next video will be another evil musicians list, as decided by the poll I did at the start of the year. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye. Here I am, back after 3 months away, again, with another Worst YouTubers video because, as it turns out, a lot of the people who use this website are deplorable, reprehensible, and sometimes just downright evil. Looking back on my first Worst YouTubers video, it's hard to believe that I started with JayStation and Onision, because everyone I've covered since has just been so much worse than them, and this video will of course be no exception. In fact, I'd say this one has the worst YouTubers yet. So let's stop wasting time and get right into the video. Here are 9 more of the worst YouTubers.
You know what? I want you all to look at me. I want you all to look at me. I want you to... Because what I'm about to say is important, I think. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. And I want you all to know this. This goes out to everybody. You're not stupid. Okay? You're not stupid. Don't ever tell yourself that you are. You're important. What you have in your head may not mean a lot to a lot of people, but it's what makes you special. You are important. You mean something. And you're going to go out there and you're going to do some wonderful things. But first and foremost, you're not stupid. You're not an idiot. Don't ever tell yourself that you are. And if nobody else ever tells you this, I will tell you this. I care about you.
The JewWario YouTube channel was created on December 28, 2006, with the very first upload being titled Poppin' Mania Controller, often reviewing games or gaming-related tech. The channel would also cover reviews of various candy from other countries, as well as opinions on Comic-Cons and monologues to camera. The channel would end up making a total of 228 videos, but it was with another group that JewWario would gain a lot more notoriety. The man behind JewWario was Justin Carmichael, born April 11, 1971 in Colorado Springs, USA. With his channel doing well, he was invited to join Channel Awesome, then known as ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com, specifically under the Blistered Thumb subsection, which focused mainly on video games and related content. His You Can Play This series did well, where he reviewed and commented on lesser known games. There was a focus on Japanese games that were a little more obscure and would otherwise not see much mainstream attention. In addition, his series known as The Gaming Pipeline was a more general show where over the course of 35 episodes, JewWario would discuss any related gaming news, open fan mail and answer it, or just discuss upcoming events where he would be attending, such as E3. Less regular, but still popular episodes were called J-Dub Reviews, where he would give viewers an oversight of an obscure game, controller, or system. Blistered Thumbs also produced Play Proceeds Clockwise, where JewWario focused on tabletop games, although this was only for a single episode. The Stuck in Your Head series was a simple 5-episode effort where people would sing along to theme songs such as DuckTales or Danger Mouse and would conclude with, quote, "Now it's stuck in your head." JewWario would also occasionally play a character he created called Yankee J, a gangster complete with baseball bat, who would review more violent games that Justin himself apparently didn't want to. Between these many series and videos, JewWario was a frequent contributor and member of the collective. Alongside him were some of the more well-known creators, such as Angry Joe, Spoonie, and Guru Larry. Justin announced his departure from the group in February 2013, moving on with seemingly no ill feelings or issues afoot. A year after this, on January 23, 2014, Justin would take his own life via self-inflicted gunshot with a shotgun. His wife confirmed the news on social media, saying that he'd been struggling both financially and with his mental health at the time. Blistered Thumbs had officially shut down 9 days earlier. Many of the Channel Awesome members, past and present, most notably Doug Walker and Angry Joe, would upload tribute videos to Justin, saying what a great and kind-hearted person he was and how much he would be missed.
This is something that has raised a lot of confusion and a lot of questions because anyone who knew Justin knew this didn't seem in character with him. It simply didn't make sense to us because the Justin that we came across and we remembered was always positive. He was always upbeat. He was always talkative. Even if you were in a bad mood or you were in an awkward situation or something wasn't comfortable, he would always start talking. He would always try to cheer you up and try to make you feel better. And I think the reason that Justin is really something special is because despite knowing what we know now, we will still remember him as this upbeat, cheerful, positive, wonderful human being. And that's because he has shared so much of that positivity with us. He has shared so much goodness with us. So this is a collection of, certainly not all, but many times that he has gone out of his way to make us feel better, to entertain, to make us laugh, and just share so much with us. So to you, Justin, just thank you so much for sharing so much with us.
Someone who I know and who was really nice to me, and one of the most gentle, kind people that you will ever know or meet in your life. I'm talking about JewWario, Justin Carmichael. I probably will never have the words to describe the type of person that Justin was to everybody around him. He was the nicest, gentlest, kindest soul. A lot of people say that about him. It's the first thing you're gonna hear every single time from anybody that you talk to who has met Justin. The words kind, gentle, and he was. More so than anybody I've ever met, and it's difficult to put into words. He would listen to you so intently, and you could tell in his eyes that he had actual love and care for what you said. And he would take the time, it doesn't matter how long it took, to listen to what was going on and offer you advice. That he genuinely cared about other people. He cared about feelings and all of that stuff. He was in tune to it. I never knew that Justin was going through. It must have been a storm or a battle internally. I never knew that. He was always so happy, always smiling, dancing, and that's how I remember Justin and how I will always remember him.
Fellow Channel Awesome alumni Linkara, Spoonie, and Bennett the Sage also had a Wario hat on display to pay tribute to their deceased friend and colleague. As you can see, Justin was very well loved and respected among his fellow creators. Little did they know that their opinions of him would one day change completely. It would be nearly 5 years later when a document was released that would cast not only Justin, but other members of Channel Awesome in a poor light. In it, multiple people associated with the channel and its subsidiaries over the years laid out many complaints against the people high up in the organization. As part of the document, there were chat logs leaked that showed a member of the team complaining about being sexually harassed by someone within the company. While they agreed to fire the perpetrator due to the incomplete censorship efforts, readers were able to deduce the following. The chat logs agreed that the offender would be fired on Friday, February 15th, 2013. And it didn't take much for internet users to put together that this timing matched exactly with when Justin left the group. So it became obvious that he had been fired for sexual misconduct rather than leaving of his own free will. There were also parts of the logs that seemed to hint that those higher up in the company had been aware of reports about Justin prior to this final complaint, but had entirely failed to do anything about it. In 2018, a Reddit user added more fuel to the fire when they reported that they had been sexually assaulted while they were sleeping by Justin also. By the time either of these things came to light, Justin had been dead for several years, and as such, no one involved would be able to get justice. His reputation and his legacy, however, were forever tarnished in the public eye. All the creators who made tribute videos to him quickly removed said videos after these revelations about Justin. Any of them who actually collaborated with him on videos even went as far as to edit him out of them, and Linkara, Spoonie, and Bennett the Sage removed his Wario hat from their backgrounds. The only former Channel Awesome member to address the details about Justin was Mars Girl, who seemed to have been his closest friend on the site. She uploaded a 28-minute video in which she talks about how shocked and horrified that the man she saw as a loving man and a dear friend was in fact a sexual predator.
Boy, is this a difficult pill to swallow, because it has been publicly revealed, thanks to Channel Awesome and their response, that JewWario was a sexual predator. Justin's name hadn't come up at all. That wasn't part of the discussion. And then another former contributor said, hey, do you think we should bring up that they knew about a sexual predator and didn't do anything? And a good hunk of us were like, oh, we don't really know what you're talking about. We don't know who this was. And that particular producer said, well, it was Justin. I was just floored. I don't know what else to say. And this was so sad to me. And I felt like as this was coming to light and as a lot of people were coming to realize this, here I am realizing how much I worked with Justin and how much work I did for him and in his name, how I ran Facebook charities for suicide prevention, and so many other people went on charity walks for suicide prevention and stuff in Justin's name. And now it just feels like, what was it all for? Did it mean nothing? Maybe it meant nothing. I don't know. We came to the decision that because now we were also learning that there were possibly multiple victims of Justin's, and just, I can't believe this was even my friend. I just couldn't even believe it. And so we said, okay, we won't include Justin's name, and it especially was a decision that we made because, obviously, Justin's not here to hurt anyone ever again.
Even more tragic is that Justin's widow had to find out what kind of man her late husband was through reading everything about him on the internet, which must have been truly earth-shattering for her. It just goes to show that even creators who appear kind-hearted and friendly on the outside can be hiding a truly horrifying secret, and in this case, we found out long after Justin escaped any consequences for his disgusting actions. The YouTube channel PlasmaMasterDon was created on August 17, 2012, and in the 8 years leading up to its closure in November 2020, they posted more than 2,500 videos. The very first of these was less than a minute long and simply titled New YouTube Account. In it, Don explains why he has started this new channel. His previous account, known as PlasmaDude47, that he had opened in 2006, had been hacked and closed, and he could no longer access it, as well as his second, PlasmaDon1947. This very brief and informal video sets the format for most of the rest of the content that he will go on to make. His most popular uploads would be of this elderly man filming himself recording either songs or raps to the camera, usually as a user request. In between these sorts of videos, there were occasionally shots of his beloved pet dog, Penny, and local sites of interest when he was out and about. They were all extremely casual, entirely inoffensive, and it has to be said, oddly charming. There was a sincerity and basic decency to the channel that seemed to flow from everything he recorded. The man behind the channel was called Donzel Edward Owens Jr., and he'd been born on September 10, 1947 in Ohio. This year of birth might be why people began to gradually drift towards Don's channel and stick around. Regular uploads from a man who was at least in his mid-60s when the PlasmaMasterDon channel started. The plasma reference in most of his chosen usernames is from his previous occupation where he worked as a plasma cutter for a company in his home state of Ohio. In terms of his life outside of YouTube, the information he gave out over the course of the years that he was making videos was the names of his 3 siblings, his parents, who were both deceased, and his high school. Slow and Steady seemed to be the name of the game when it came to channel growth, as it reached the 100,000 subscriber mark in June of 2020, 8 years after starting. An impressive feat, no doubt, and the milestones just kept coming after that. The very next month, PlasmaMasterDon passed 200,000, and then 300,000 in August, and 400,000 in September. The channel broke the 500,000 sub barrier in late November 2020, and while this is an impressive feat by any measure, Don was soon to realize that with increased exposure comes increased scrutiny. In his case, this would be in the form of a fairly innocuous Reddit post that was created in the R Morbid Reality subreddit and would be brought to the public at large via a YouTube video courtesy of Nick Crowley that went live on December 11, 2020. When the original post went up, PlasmaMasterDon posted less than a week later to state that he was taking some time away from YouTube. He was now into his 70s, and his COPD and health in general was stopping him being able to sing. The timing of this announcement, almost immediately after the accusatory post went up, made most people suspicious that he was merely trying to swerve the subject. The video by Nick Crowley in December went over the now deleted post where a user had made a worrying discovery. In the state of Ohio, the sex offenders register is accessible to the public, and someone had made a strange connection. There was an entry in it that seemed to match some of the known facts of PlasmaMasterDon a little too clearly, and this entry in the register was a man who had been charged with groping a young boy. The first and most obvious was the name, Donzel Edward Owens. This makes a fairly strong case already, as it seems highly unlikely to have 2 men with the exact same combination of first, middle, and surname all in the same order and living in the state of Ohio. The second is the date of birth given for both men, being September 10, 1947. The year Don was born was never in doubt, due to 47 being included in his username, but the birthday he had provided in his YouTube About section matched exactly. The likelihood of these 2 very specific pieces of personal information applying to 2 men within a single state is already astronomically slim. Just over 5.5 million males live in Ohio. How probable is it that 2 entirely separate men exist that share the exact same birthday and have identical names? While this seemed more than enough to prove the point, further details were examined. The vehicle that was cited in the register was a 2005 Buick Century, and PlasmaMasterDon featured a video on his channel on November 15, 2015 entitled My Car 2005 Buick Century, where he gave a brief overview of this vehicle. There are other similarities in terms of eye and hair color matching, as well as both men wearing glasses. Some even pointed out that the mugshot attached to the register had a shirt that PlasmaMasterDon owned in it, but these facts made it fairly likely that these men were one and the same. As soon as he had announced his time away from YouTube for health reasons, it became apparent that he was attempting some light censorship to try and keep the issue hidden. There were reports of deleted comments and banned users whenever the incident was referred to. As it would happen, PlasmaMasterDon would upload his last ever video on November 18th, mere weeks before the video exposing him would be released, and while many believed his quote, health troubles were employed to avoid the heat from being outed, there was clearly some truth to them, as PlasmaMasterDon, or Donzel Edward Owens, passed away on December 23rd, 2020. While the evidence for him being one and the same as the man accused of sexual misconduct in his state is near overwhelming, it needs to be noted that he had never confirmed it before his passing. However, his legacy, and how he has been viewed by many since these revelations, has surely tainted what was sure to have been a great legacy. Carl Philip Herold was an American programmer born in 1981. Prior to becoming well known, he'd apparently been a programmer for over 15 years, and in 2009, under the Reddit name Carl H., he would post the r/programming subreddit, where he would offer to teach anyone who wanted to be a programmer themselves, completely free of charge. He said that this was, quote, just him being nice and hopefully helping someone out, though he did say he could only take on so many students. He apparently received hundreds of requests following this post, and while he was thrilled to see so many people interested in learning from him, it was obviously far too many people for him to teach on his own. Another user named Mosky replied to the post and recommended that Carl created his own subreddit and use it as a sort of classroom where he could post his own tutorials and give assignments to those who read them, where they'd come back and show what they'd learned from him. 2 days after this original post, Carl did make his own subreddit called r/CarlHProgramming, which quickly grew to have thousands of members over the next 3 years. The success of this sub led him to create his own YouTube channel on July 7th, 2012. Carl's videos were of course all tutorials related to programming, most of them actually screen recordings from private lessons. He comes across as very cheerful and happy to be helping so many aspiring programmers. Keep in mind he was doing this all for free, so it really did seem like he just loved his job and wanted to share his knowledge with as many people as possible, never wanting anything in return. His students obviously thought very highly of him, and Carl was known for being very nice and approachable. All in all, Carl really did come across as an all-around selfless individual. His students admired him so much that when he posted a story on Reddit about how he was scammed by a marketing agent who tried to swindle him and his company out of thousands of dollars in 2005, his students rallied behind him, leaving positive comments on the Reddit post and upvoting it so that it became the first thing that came up when Carl's name was searched on Google. Thanks to his followers, the Reddit post became the first search result, pushing any negative mentions of him down. On July 26, 2012, 3 weeks after creating his YouTube channel, Carl was named Redditor of the Day. He did an Ask Me Anything on the same day, which was filled with his students posting positive comments about him, with Carl showing genuine gratitude to all of them, clearly thrilled that he'd helped so many people. By all accounts, Carl was a saint who everyone had nothing but good things to say about. Unfortunately, Carl was not the good person he made himself out to be. His fans would soon learn what kind of man Carl Herold really was. In 2013, without warning, Carl suddenly stopped being active on Reddit and YouTube. Naturally, his students were surprised and concerned about his whereabouts, since it was unlike him to be gone for extended periods of time like this. And then, Carl Herold's name appeared in the news. Carl and his partner, Charles Dunavant, were arrested and charged with making child of Carl's own son and posted videos of the abuse online. He also prevented his son from going to school and going outside, and threatened to kill him if he told anyone about the abuse. When the police raided his home, they found over 100 images of Carl's son. Because of the incident, he was judged and then incarcerated for sodomy, sexual abuse, aggravated child abuse, child production, and disturbing child. He and Dunavant's bails were set to $1 billion. Naturally, the Reddit community was shocked and appalled that the man who they had looked up to and viewed as a generous and wholesome mentor was in fact a vile and disgusting predator who had done unspeakable things to his own son. Everyone who had once admired and supported him were now understandably outraged and condemned him for his diabolical and disgusting actions. In 2014, he was found hanged in his Alabama jail cell, having, quote, unalived himself to avoid trial and sentencing. Carl really pulled the wool over the eyes of his followers. He convinced them all that he was a selfless man who wanted to help and educate others, when in reality he was an evil scumbag who committed unforgivable acts on his own son, no doubt scarring the poor child for life. VoteSaxon07 is a YouTube channel started in October of 2015 that focused on all things unapologetically nerdy. Over the next 8 years, there would be more than 650 videos posted to the channel, with a lot of the videos covering Doctor Who, both as a show and the memorabilia that surrounded it. Later it would expand to take in reviews and overviews of other franchises and the associated toys, gadgets and collectibles that could be gotten from them. Pokemon, Robot Wars, Toy Story, Star Wars. If it has a dedicated fan base and any amount of either current or nostalgic memorabilia, then it was fair game on the channel, and it did well, ballooning up to a subscriber count of above 36,000. This was actually the second channel created by Stephen McCullough. His first foray into the world of YouTube started 5 years earlier, where he reviewed a Doctor Who toy, the Sonic Screwdriver. This would demonstrate not only what the Vote Saxon channel would eventually become, but even showed how he came up with the name. Vote Saxon is a reference to a campaign within the world of Doctor Who, where the, quote, Saxon Master appears and succeeds in becoming the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Stephen himself was born in February 1990 in Northern Ireland to parents Heather and John. Outside of YouTube, he contributed to the Belfast Telegraph newspaper as an online content editor and to the Nerd News website. Both of his parents would pass away, with Heather dying in 2014 and John a year later in 2015. His love of Robot Wars, the UK television show where robots designed and piloted by enthusiasts compete against each other in a battle of destruction, was obvious when he became a member of the team known as S-Tech. They entered various robots over the course of multiple series, including Push to Exit. This was the team's entry in series 9 and 10, where McCullough was part of the crew as, quote, media relations, covering their progress and shooting behind the scenes footage. The idea was that he would review the robot and help build hype by posting the videos to his channel. Despite some promising efforts, it never made a cut in the series, being immobilized and eliminated both times. Despite achieving reasonable success on YouTube, events would unfold in real life that would make it more famous and well known than he would ever hoped or expected. On December 18th, 2022, Natalie McConnelly was stabbed to death inside her Belfast home. At the time, 32-year-old Natalie was an estimated 15 weeks pregnant with Stephen's child. The brutal murder made headlines locally and led to law enforcement looking for the culprit, and suspicion initially fell on Stephen, as the two had been in a relationship at the time. Despite being arrested in January of 2023, Stephen would produce what looked like an airtight alibi. On the night in question, Stephen had been streaming himself playing Grand Theft Auto for 6 hours during the time frame when the murder took place. Following this revelation, he was promptly de-arrested. However, other pieces of evidence soon led to the police looking closer at his stream. Firstly, there was CCTV footage obtained that showed a man taking a bus from where Stephen lived to Natalie's home, all the while taking great care to conceal his face. This man had a bag with him and was wearing gloves. After they got off the bus, they headed off in the direction of Natalie's home, before reappearing 40 minutes later with entirely different clothes on. At this point, they hailed a taxi, which dropped them off near to where Stephen lived. When the police looked into the alibi stream a little more closely, they noted a few suspicious aspects to it. The first was that he had a note on the stream saying that there were issues with the setup and he wouldn't be interacting with any of the viewers because of this. While this is possible, it seemed a little too convenient that there was no, quote, live reactions or interactions with viewers to ever prove he was sitting behind the computer at the time, so the police investigated further. The 6-hour stream was determined to have been pre-recorded within the week previous, in what law enforcement described as a deliberate attempt to create an alibi. Stephen eventually admitted that the live stream was in fact not live, but denied it was done with any ulterior motives. He claimed he wasn't streaming that night, he had actually been drinking and fell asleep. He remains in custody, charged with the murder of Natalie. Stephen is yet another YouTuber who might have found great success on the site and become a well-known and respected content creator. Instead, people will now only think of him as the monster who murdered his girlfriend and their unborn child. Devin Michael Erickson was born on September 20th, 2000, in Colorado, USA. It doesn't seem as though he had a particularly happy childhood, with numerous reports of issues in his home life. While there seems to be a lack of specifics with regards to it, there was an outlet that Devin found, and that was the internet, including YouTube. He started the channel NotSoFantasticDevon on January 8th, 2016. His output wasn't either prolific or memorable. In fact, by the time the channel was deactivated in 2019, he had posted a grand total of 3 videos. For reasons that will soon become obvious, all the videos on his channel had been wiped from the internet. From what we understand, the sparse videos focused on the game Dead by Daylight. However, outside of the internet is where Devon gained the most fame. He was attending Highlands Ranch STEM school alongside his friend Alec McKinney. Alec was born female but was transitioning to male and identified as he/him. He was also 16 at the time, and as such, there were little to no information, images or details available about him to the public at large. Devon, however, was 18. The two of them were clearly very close. Devon featured in Alec's Instagram profile picture, and the pair had long been known to have a good relationship. They were both a little disillusioned, unhappy, and not fond of the students that surrounded them at their place of education. Later reports would come out that there was some suspicious or worrying edits made to the Wikipedia page of the school. Someone had added information regarding a program that had recently run to support people struggling with mental health in order to mitigate against both self-harm and school shootings. An anonymous edit was made from an IP in the area that simply added, "Do they work? We shall see." Both Alec and Devon were known to be struggling with their mental health issues at this point, but the actions they chose to take were far beyond what anyone could have thought. The two of them ducked out during lunch break and went to Devon's home. According to his later testimony, Devon says that Alex forced him to open the gun safe, and the pair then took 2 actions. The first was to arm themselves with multiple firearms, including handguns and a rifle, which they concealed in a backpack and inside a guitar case. The second was that they took some cocaine. After this, they returned to the school and made their way inside. Devon would later claim he intended on reporting Alec and that he had no guns on him, but instead, the two met up and came into a classroom from 2 different directions. The guns were produced and they opened fire. A classmate by the name of Kendra Castillo, himself only aged 18, lost his life when he charged at Devon in an attempt to protect his classmates and disarm him. 2 other students also jumped at the gunmen and successfully disarmed and subdued him. This would end up being the only fatality of the incident, although 8 additional people suffered gunshot wounds. Alec would later state he intended to take his own life during the shooting, but was thwarted by the safety mechanism on his handgun. Instead, he was apprehended and subdued on the scene and taken into custody. Once the pair went to trial and all the ins and outs were ironed out legally, the man behind the channel NotSoFantasticDevon was found guilty on 46 different counts and received a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. And just in case anyone was worried that he got off lightly, they added 1,282.5 years on top of that. That's not a typo, by the way. That is the exact amount of additional years that were added onto the sentence. The convictions included murder, 31 counts of attempted murder, arson, burglary, and conspiracy, among others. It's safe to say that Devon's channel will not be seeing any significant updates in any of our lifetimes. When it comes to the YouTuber known as Vance Stone, the question isn't what he had on his channel, what he uploaded, what he spoke about, what he was into. It's more, which channel are we really talking about? Because it would turn out that the man behind the Vance Stone YouTube name had run a number of different channels over the years, with varying degrees of success, infamy, and irrelevance. If we go all the way back to the very inception of Vance Stone, then we'll find a channel named The Orange Block. That was created in November 2008, but posted a grand total of 0 videos. The very next channel is where we take the name from, Vance Stone, which was launched on August 30th, 2009, and ended up posting 22 videos. The important thing to realize from this point, and going forward, is that there is no real rhyme or reason to either the names, the purposes, or the success of these channels. While some have been tailored towards niche interests or targeted towards specific audiences, the general theme that overrides it all is a concept of shitposting. It seems to be any content under any username and targeted at any audience as long as it would elicit an interaction and a response, even if that response was negative. That becomes fundamental to what this creator was all about. There was no tells of who they were as a person, what their beliefs were, or how they felt, just inflammatory content for the sake of engagement. Some of it even wandered into the realms of rage baiting. Take for example the channel Cho Sung Hui 4.0, named after the infamous spree killer of Virginia Tech, which not only had the killer's face as the profile picture, but managed to upload more than 30 videos from its creation in August 2017. There could be no other explanation for taking the name and likeness of a mass murderer and slapping it on a new channel other than to elicit a hostile response. yet this seems to be what the man behind Vance Stone was all about. He created Baldo McF in November of 2015 and managed to upload more than 30 videos without being banned, as well as a series of nearly 10 other channels. The objective, in retrospect, was clear: offend, push buttons, and see how people react. While the various channels really ran the gauntlet for some legitimate attempts at making gaming content, to the mainly shitposting channels, when we peek behind the curtain to look at the man behind the many channels, we may start to understand what it was all about. The man at the keyboard and the business end of the upload machine was William Edward Atchison. He was born on March 18, 1996 in Belen, New Mexico. Along with his brother and parents, they moved to Aztec, a nearby town where he attended high school. His experience in school and his actions both paint a twin picture of an outcast who was forced further out towards the extremes of life. It's fairly accepted that he was fairly heavily bullied and never got on well with his peers. He had the local police called on him a number of times. It's said that he was in counselling within the school for a number of years and also had the police visit him at home after he allegedly opened fire on neighbours' pets with air rifles. He ended up being kicked out of his high school when he chose to try to make a memorial for the Columbine shooters on the classroom whiteboard in 2012, which was met with obvious backlash from his classmates. He would never return to schooling after this incident and instead sought work locally. By this point, he was already posting prolifically online and being very open about his opinions regarding where he lived and his long-term prospects. His online presence would go from unhinged to blatantly dangerous, as he would post on right-wing forums, use inflammatory usernames such as Adam Lanza, and express a continuous and targeted interest in past school shooters and what they had, quote, accomplished. When another similarly minded individual named David Solomby committed the Munich shootings in 2016, authorities would realize that the two had been in close contact and began to monitor William even closer. In March of 2016, the FBI would contact him to inquire about his posts and seemed to ask about his acquisition of a weapon for committing a mass shooting. Somehow, given the vast and random nature of his internet presence up until this point, he was able to convince them that he was simply trolling or trying to get a reaction for effect. The letter agency confirmed for themselves that he owned no actual firearms and then dropped the case. In late 2017, William would purchase a 9mm Glock 19 semi-auto pistol entirely legally from Farmington in San Juan County, New Mexico. After the fact, it came out that he revisited the high school in Aztec under what could only be assumed to be a false front and was given a guided tour. During this tour, he marked out all the exits, the entrances, and all possibilities relevant to the plan he was building. At 8 AM on December 7, 2017, William entered the high school at Aztec, pretending to be a student. Once he was inside the upper hallway, he opened fire with the weapon he had purchased in San Juan. Thomas Hill, the janitor, chased after him, shouting "shooter" to draw attention. Additionally, Katie Porter, a substitute in her 70s, directed students into a classroom and barricaded the door with furniture. The immediate and swift actions of these two staff members undoubtedly saved a great number of lives that day. When the dust settled, 2 students had lost their lives. Casey Jordan Masquez and Francisco Fernandez had both suffered fatal wounds from William's rampage. William then, of course, did what most school shooters did to avoid being captured. In a note, some detail of his reasoning for the shooting is given. Work sucks, school sucks, life sucks, I just want out of this shit. Once again, like so many who came before him, William was just another lunatic who felt that everyone else was to blame for his problems and that they needed to pay. No one will ever remember him for whatever content he uploaded to YouTube. Instead, he'll always be remembered as a cold-blooded killer who murdered 2 innocent people at his old high school. George Alfred Sodini was a man who was successful in a lot of ways by any standard. He worked as a computer programmer and made good money while maintaining a nice home in Pennsylvania. But as would be made clear from the 2 very sparse and lonely videos that he posted on his YouTube channel, he was seemingly not very well equipped to handle life like most of the human race was. 2 videos survive on his channel, MOSB46PGH, with each of them demonstrating his difficulty in functioning within the world fairly well. The first, uploaded 15 years ago, describes the best course of action to hide from emotion, a tutorial in which he describes that he has spent the vast majority of his adult life being unable to obtain any sort of personal closeness or intimate relationships. His first effort into the cyber realm was just him explaining how isolated and lonely he felt and advising others how they could do the same.
It is easy for me to hide from my emotions for one more day. Take a long drive in the car, listen to some music, daydream, or just do some mundane task around the house that really doesn't need to be done, that's not too important. And there you go, one more day, and one more day turns into one more year. Now, RDS says that I have approximately maybe 15 more years to be successful at this. And when I heard that, I wanted to continue immediately to start moving on this. I didn't realize I had that much time. So my objective is to be real and to learn to be emotional and to be able to emotionally connect with people. Because when I'm 10 to 20 years older than she is, she has to feel good about this thing. And the only way around that, is to work on this, and perhaps STEM exercises or forgiveness exercises as per Hay or whatever else. I'm going to post this and see what comes back.
The second is a house tour where he shows the viewers exactly where he lived and how his life in his house was set up. The property in question is impressive. There are plenty of trappings of a successful life that we would all agree with, but the undertones of being lonely and detached from any sorts of meaningful relationship shine through. This is clearly a man who has managed to start a successful career, one who has enough money to sustain a fairly solid home life, but one who is chronically lonely, a man who feels like he has done everything right according to the blueprint of life, but remains entirely by himself and seems entirely unable to remedy the situation in any way. His feelings of isolation and inadequacy are amplified in this video that remains up and visible to this day.
This is my house from the street. Here is my car. This is a 2-bedroom brick ranch, conveniently located. My car is an 07 Altima. I paid $79,000 for this in 1996. That's considered a lot, believe it or not. Open it up. Oh, someone left it unlocked. That's not good. Inside, okay, here's my big screen TV, 32-inch. It's my computer. Let me pan out a little bit. Computer is connected to the stereo, which I listen to my MP3s and everything else. Pan to the other side. Speakers on each side are large. They double as end tables. Okay, couch and chair, they match. The woman will really be impressed. Okay, come over here. There's some reading material that we're all familiar with. Come out here through the dining room. I just bought this. Dining room set. Rug, okay. Little hallway, 2 bedrooms. 2 bedrooms. To the right is my bedroom. Extra computer here, they're networked. I'll show you the Cat 5 connections downstairs. Okay, it looks pretty clean. I'm sure she'll be impressed.
It's nothing more than a house tour, but there is an undertone of sadness imbued within it that is hard to ignore. There is nothing malicious or deadly or worrying at all in George's house tour. In fact, most viewers report feeling a bit sorry for him. It's as though he was a man who never understood the game plan for life, following it anyway, and then found out that the rewards promised were nothing but a pipe dream. But before you start feeling too much sympathy for George, we need to move on to the reason that he's on this list. He bottled up these feelings of isolation, loneliness, frustration, and that life had cheated him somehow, and chose to resolve it in the most brutal way possible. On October 24th, 2009, George headed along to his local LA fitness gym, except this time he brought a duffel bag with him, one that was filled with an arsenal of weapons, 2 Glock semi-auto pistols, and a 32 caliber and 45 caliber handgun. He arrived at the location at a point where it was filled with mainly women and turned off the lights before opening up his bag of armaments. Later, evidence would be found on his blog and in his home that he spoke of his intentions when it came to this day. He spoke about what he wanted to do and how he couldn't bail on it under any circumstances. These notes seem to imply that he was intent on committing this outrage and there was nothing that was ever going to stop him. The notes he left referred to an, quote, exit plan, heavily implying that he would, quote, unalive himself in the process, as well as the fact that he had planned something earlier in the year that he had backed out of at the last minute. His personal website was full of his frustrated venting about the fact that he was alone and his lack of success with women. A direct quote is, "Last time I slept all night with a girlfriend, it was 1982. Girls and women don't even give me a second look anywhere," amongst many other posts with similar themes. In the darkness of the women's aerobics class, he opened fire indiscriminately. Once he had nearly run out of ammunition, he turned the gun on himself, marking himself as the final fatality in the shooting. The end result was that 9 people were injured in the course of his rampage, as well as 3 lives being taken, all women. The only other life that was lost was that of George himself. Again, it would be very easy to feel sorry for George, seeing as how he made a habit out of telling everyone how lonely and unsuccessful with women he was. But it can't be stated enough how little he deserves any sympathy because he killed 3 innocent people, or because he let his feelings of loneliness consume him. And instead of trying harder to better himself as a person, he took it out on the world in the most gruesome way possible.
I just don't have any willpower to do anything anymore. You know? I know a lot of people say, oh, that's weak-minded, that's pathetic, but dude, it's like how many years I've been working out, how many years I've been wanting and dealing with all these frustrations. You know, it's like I was doing a session just now. I was thinking, what am I doing this for? Why do I? What the f? You know, how long have I been doing this for? Has it changed my life? No. Do I feel any better anymore? No. Do I get any enjoyment from working out anymore? No. Do I get any good feeling after, you know, that natural high anymore? No. I'm so beaten down and defeated by f***ing life. That drive that I once had, that's gone now. It's gone, it's literally gone. Like, I don't have the power anymore. I don't have that willpower anymore. I can't sit there and force myself to be like, right, let's do this. You know, we'll work towards, we keep going, yes. You know, muscle through it, you know, like, I just can't do that anymore. When you dealt with nothing but negativity in your life, you know, you can't, it's, as you get older and you get ground down, you know, I try, and I always keep trying. But it's like, I'm at the point now where it's like, why do I even bother? Like, for what? You know? I'm still in the same house, same situation, same position. Still, everything's still the same. People like me, and I'm not making excuses, but this is just reality. People like me have had nobody but themselves. And people who are incels and all this, I don't clarify myself as an incel, but you know, people like similar to me, they've had nothing but themselves. And then they've socially had it tough. When you've been defeated a million times, you wake up and you're like, well, what the f***? You know, when you've worked so hard, and you see motherfuckers at work nowhere near as hard as you. And then you wake up and you stare at the wall and you're thinking, nothing's changed. Like, I'm still in the same position, same period in life. Still a this, that, virgin, fat, ugly, whatever you want to call it. You know, most people would have been completely, utterly broken if they had lived, you know, my fucking life. And I know that for a fact. And I'm not trying to say, like, pity party or I'm the biggest victim in the world. But I know for a fact if people had lived my fucking life, they wouldn't have lasted.
Jake William Davison was born on August 21st, 1998 to Mark and Maxine Davison in Plymouth, England. They previously lived in the Shetland Islands north of mainland Scotland, where Mark worked as a fisherman and Maxine had spent time on trawlers. Jake's childhood, however, would not be a straightforward one. His parents were separated. Jake's 2 older siblings lived in the Shetlands while he and his mother were in England, and his father had some trouble with the law. Mark Davison had been fined for using racist language to insult a fellow bus passenger in 2010, and 4 years later received an 8-month sentence for punching and biting the cheek of a fellow crewman on board a fishing vessel. Despite this, Jake spent significant periods of time back up north with other members of Maxine's family that still lived in the islands, as well as his older siblings. When he was still a child, Jake was diagnosed with both ADHD and autism, 2 conditions that made him feel like he couldn't fit in and led him to struggling to make friends. 2 passions seemed to be his way to try and find semblance of normality: the internet and firearms. Jake started a YouTube channel under the name Professor Waffle and started spending long hours browsing and posting on various forums. The difficulty that he felt in his day-to-day life, the problems that he felt he faced attracting women or beginning meaningful friendships, all of a sudden, instead of being this one unique, baffling and infuriating part of his existence, he found many others who felt like he did. He occasionally posted in incel forums, involuntary celibates, or people who aren't having any sex and believe that this is an issue that society as a whole should remedy, rather than any sort of personal introspection or improvement. The fairly bleak outlook he had obtained on life by this point became pretty obvious. His posts would later be described as both misogynistic and hate-filled. There were frequent references to his general nihilism when it came to how he viewed his life, as well as numerous concepts such as the black pill outlook, a general belief that life is essentially pointless and all human effort is wasted. Jake felt that his lack of success with women was down to their own failings and their personal leanings. He believed, as many others did in these small pockets of the internet, that these women were passing over good guys like him in favor of, quote, chads, or conventionally attractive men that simply had sex with and then discarded females that were charmed by their surface level attraction. Another theme in his videos as he posted were aspects of self-improvement. Jake began to lift weights and recorded not only his body development, but also his own ever-increasing personal bests. However, despite this objectively improving his own health and self-worth, when it did nothing to improve his romantic opportunities, it only pushed him further down the rabbit hole. Outside of the online world, his mother Maxine was recognizing the struggles that her son was going through. Despite the fact that he was working at Babcock locally, she could see that his mental health, which had long been an issue for him, was not improving. She contacted local services multiple times, looking for some assistance with how to best handle and help her son. In fact, his mental instability had already brought him some trouble. On one of the trips back to the islands up north, he had gotten into an altercation with locals, which resulted in minor trouble. A second incident back when he lived in Plymouth led to him having his firearms license temporarily revoked. At this point, his estranged father even contacted the local police to express his concern about the issue. It was his opinion that Jake was not stable enough to hold the license he held and asked for it not to be reinstated. Mark Davison said he never received a response. As it happened, the local police chose to reinstate his license and gave his guns back to him. That would come with tragic circumstances on August 12, 2021. All the unhappiness, the dissatisfaction, and the frustration that had plagued Jake Davidson's life up until this point would come to a senseless and violent conclusion. Just after 6 p.m, Jake got into yet another fight with his mother. This time, however, he grabbed her by her throat, wouldn't let her leave the room, and subsequently shot her with his pump-action shotgun. Maxine had phoned her sister at the start of the altercation, meaning that the police were already notified by this point. With his mother dead, and Jake clearly having lost his grip on reality, he left the house still holding the same shotgun. A near neighbor in the street, a 43-year-old man, became his next victim by being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Alongside him, his 3-year-old daughter was also shot by Jake. He injured 2 other close neighbors by firing through their windows, thankfully not killing either, but continued on his route to a local park, where he managed to take another life by killing a man in his late 50s. Another woman in her 60s met her end at the hands of Jake's shotgun while she was leaving a hairdresser's before he eventually turned the weapon on himself, just as the police started to arrive and close in on him. Although he is largely known as an incel killer, Jake Davison was more misogynistic and black-pilled. One of Maxine's previous partners described Jake as taking multiple protein supplements and energy drinks a day, as well as claiming that he took anabolic steroids. His many arguments with his mother were because he seemed to view females as beneath him in some way. It was some combination of his hateful worldview, seemingly endlessly reinforced by the way his life was going, and a genuine belief that there was no way for it to ever get any better, that sent him down this dark path. The YouTube channel WumsCut86 was created on March 14, 2008. After posting only around 5 videos, the channel would be shut down that very same year towards the end of September. While the normal format is to go over the channel and then review the person behind it, it seems once again that it would make more sense to look into the man behind the channel before we look at what sorts of content he was producing. Martti Juhani-Saari, the man behind the camera, was a Finnish national born on March 20th, 1986. As with most people on this list, Martti had not been blessed with a straightforward childhood. In his younger years, he suffered from ill health. His childhood was marred with reoccurring bouts of illness, slow physical development, and reported bullying from his peers due to these things. He found it hard to fit in, and nothing that happened in the course of his life seemed to make that any better. He lost his older brother at the age of 17, and seemed to retreat even further, if that was possible, into himself. As he approached his later teens, Martti was struggling with numerous mental health conditions, including but not limited to anxiety, depression, schizotypal personality disorder, and avoidant personality disorder. To add to the mix, Martti was promptly kicked out of the Finnish army after having been a part of it for less than a month. He joined in 2006 at the age of 20, but it would not take long for him to cause issues. When they were on an exercise, he opened fire without permission and was promptly kicked out. According to those that knew him and those that treated him for his mental health, he was obsessed with the Columbine shooters, firearms in general, and at one point admitted to a friend that he wanted to, quote, kill as many people as possible. It was under this alarmingly dark backdrop that he chose to make his YouTube channel titled Wumpscut86. He didn't post very often, only amassing 5 videos before the end, but the things he chose to upload were very telling. One of the first videos was him at a gun range, discharging a firearm downrange, a semi-automatic pistol, specifically a 22 Walther P22 target. Adding into the fact that his favorited videos included footage from the Columbine school shooting, someone reported his YouTube channel concerned about his entirely legal access to a firearm and his rather odd interests. It was for this reason that the Finnish police paid him a visit on the 22nd of September 2008 to speak to him and make sure there was nothing amiss. They concluded that he was doing nothing wrong to the Finnish law at the time, since he had a temporary permit to hold the weapon in his possession and there were no further indications of criminal issues. They left the home, satisfied that they had fulfilled their duty. The very next day, Martti would prove that conclusion tragically and brutally wrong. He returned to the Kauhajoki School of Hospitality in South Ostrobothnia. Before entering the school proper, he dropped off some notes which contained what would be described as his, quote, manifesto. They were a sprawling and rambling diatribe against the world and life in general. One of the key points in this document was that he had been intent on an action like this for, quote, years, and that he had held a deep-seated hatred for the human race in general. When he entered the facility itself, these intentions would become obvious. He opened fire in a classroom and began to indiscriminately take out students with the exact same pistol he had videos of himself shooting at the range with and had been reported for owning. After he had taken out as many as he could in that classroom, he spread flammable liquid around the room and lit it in an attempt to clear the remains of the victims. When law enforcement arrived and it was clear there was no way out, Martti did what most school shooters did. He was found by the police just after midday and transferred to the local hospital, where after more than 4 hours of intense medical intervention, he was declared dead. The death toll for his murderous rampage would later turn out to be 10 killed and 11 injured. Out of the 11 injuries, 1 woman had sustained a head wound, and out of the 10 dead, 8 were female and 2 were male. It's crazy to think that not only was Martti not the only YouTuber turned mass shooter, he wasn't even the only one from Finland, with Pekka Erik Auvinen, of course, having come before him. In the end, Martti was just another one of those natural selection freaks with an obsession for the Columbine shooters, something which is unfortunately still all too common to this day. And that's the end of the video, folks. As always, I'm sorry about the time it took for the video to come out. This time it was mostly due to issues outside of my control. And my editor Chris was very sick for a while, meaning he wasn't able to work on the video. But he finally got it done, and I personally think he did a terrific job, and I hope you think the same. And I didn't forget that this video is going up very close to Christmas time, so I hope you all have a very happy Christmas, or Hanukkah, or Kwanzaa, or whichever holiday you celebrate at this time of year. Have fun, take care of yourselves, and be well. I'll see you all in 2024, where hopefully I'll get a video out that year. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.